Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Once more, I wholeheartedly offer whatever suits your time zone. It's another Blue Morning show, and I hope you all are doing well. Today, we're going to talk about the Ricketts family again. We're going to talk about the fact that they will be joined by the Rock Entertainment Group, which owns the Rock Entertainment Group that owns what's it called, the NBA's Cleveland Cavaliers and a number of other major American sports financiers. So we'll talk about that, and we'll also review the protest at Stamford Bridge yesterday and talk about how everything went. But before we continue, please, if you haven't, make sure to like the video so that Google can push it to other people who are not watching, and also do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. That would do us a world of good. So let's get into it. I'm not sure why. It looks like the connect. If you can hear me or if you can still see the picture, I'm not sure what's happening. The connection is a bit shaky. It's not stable. The picture is freezing and all that. So, but that's by the way. Again, we're going to talk about the Rock Entertainment Group, whose chairman is I don't recall. They are the owners of the NBA. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And Roger Sagawa says, good news for Chelsea fans. I'm not sure what good news. Please let us know if you're still there. And this is Mohammed Razak saying, fasting today on Sunday. Yes, I hope it all goes well for all our Muslim as Chelsea supporters all over the world. Chelsea should sign a Norway striker this summer. Let us know what Norway striker you're talking about. And this is note to the Ricketts. Yes, we must not stop the campaign. The campaign must hit up because it looks like I see. It looks like they are not hearing what we're saying. It doesn't look like they're going to give up. So it's important that we do not relent in our efforts to, you know, to let them hear our voice, to let them understand that we do not want them at a club. And now I want to take a moment to also talk about one of our heroes in this show. One of we call it because we're like family here. I'm just gonna be brief with it, so I don't get hit with a copyright notice. We're talking about just one second. Let me share the screen here. Share screen. This one here. Yes, we are talking about Nick Blue. Nick Blue is one of us. Is you? I do believe you've seen him on the panel or in the chat talking to people, but he's always available to participate or however he can. So he was on at the ground yesterday during the protest, and he showed us live images from the protest, and that was beautiful. That made us feel like we were all there. The representatives represented those of us who live far away from London and are not able to make it to the protest. At least we believe they've heard our voices. But we must not stop now because they haven't given up. They're actually, they're recruiting more people. They're strengthening their base. So we must strengthen our own base. We must counter them as a unit. We must not give up. We must continue to, make our voices heard. I'm going to take some comments in the chat also. This is Tobago saying, "Big up, guys! Big up to you too, brother. I hope you are doing well." And this is also Tobago saying, "Hit the like button. Yes, please do that. That will help trigger the algorithm and make it to push it to other people." And this is Newcastle today, I think so. I'm not sure what game starts very soon. This is Almighty Blues FC, my brother from another mother. I appreciate you finding time to be here. And please, if you're watching, if you haven't, make sure to go check out his channel. Great content, no clickbait at all. And that's why we've become friends. And over time, brothers. And please give me 1 second to take a sip of my coffee so that I can wake up properly. Okay, and here, Guardian. Yeah, it is the Guardian. Yeah, and Tobago says, hope this practice will help. It sure will help because most definitely they saw them, they heard them, and that was why that I wouldn't say they made a plea. I think they reached out or they find a way telling them not to show signs. I think we heard that from our man who was present during the protest. Let us know that they were not allowed to show their signs. So the question now we should be asking is these the Ricketts for sure, they must be hearing all this pushback against them. They must be seeing the hashtag campaign in the media. So why are they still coming at us? At this time, if you ask me, it's become what's called stalking. We don't want them, but they seem like they're bent on forcing themselves on us. And if you ask me, the facts and the news that that the rock group has joined the Ricketts-led consortium, to me means I think they're trying to distract us, or maybe they're just trying to put them as a front there, or maybe they're just strengthening their base because they have strong competition from other groups that are vying to take over Chelsea Football Club. Whatever that is, I am beginning to become even more concerned that maybe they will end up becoming new owners of Chelsea Football Club, most especially given the behavior of Chelsea chairman Bruce Buck, who set up a meeting for them. That's concerning to me. Let me take a few comments in a bit. I will share the link in the chat section so that if you want to join, you can join us. Today I'm free. If you can share the link, I will be on with you. Yeah, in a bit I will do that. And this is Just Viola, one of the queens of the house, says, good blue morning, Coachila. Blue morning to you too, Just Viola. I hope you're doing well, and I hope your dad enjoyed his birthday, which was yesterday, as you informed us. Hi, everyone, she says. Hi to you too. Chester best signer, best Diego Costa of 2014. I'm not sure what you're trying to say, but if we can get Diego Costa even right now at his age, I take him wholeheartedly because he's such a fine finisher and such a good striker in overall. So I'm going to share the link to the panel. And I will make sure to pin the link. It is a pinned message. Then please don't forget, if you haven't, be sure to like the video. Now, again, as I was saying, the question is, why are they still trying to become a Chelsea Football Club owners? If you think you know the answer, you're in the comment section. Do let us know. To me, that is concerning and scary. Again, I'm going to repeat myself, and I'm beginning to sound like a broken record again, because it just seems as if they have an insider who's guaranteed them or who's told them for sure that they will emerge as the new owners of the club. They shouldn't even worry about the protest. That's what it seems like. And like I've mentioned here before, any sensible person, uh, a business owner, manager, or even supervisor in a business will advise the owners to let go, of a business they're trying to acquire, that the employees at that point don't like them. But in this case, we're talking about the fans. The fans, majority of the fans don't want them. So why are they still coming for us? Tobago, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Brilliant. I hope your brother, who you told us the last time, I think a few days ago, was hospitalized. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, it's doing well.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's nice to
Thank
hear.
you.
Welcome to the panel. The first question I wanted to ask you, you know, I'm sure these guys, the Ricketts family, Griffin, who's one of them, and the guys also that are coming to join them, which is the Rock Entertainment Group, an event management organization. I'm sure they're hearing about the pushbacks. So why are they still coming?
To be honest, I don't know why this guy doesn't give up because clearly they can see Chelsea fans that doesn't want them and they're busy adding more people. You can see now it's just for money. They want to own Chelsea for money. That's it.
Yeah, because really, if they're nice people, if when you get such pushback, the most sensible thing to do would be to abandon, your bid for the club because it doesn't make sense. So probably like I think I've said this like a lot of times on this show. Probably their plan would be to come in, and then if the fans doesn't want them, they will look for another buyer, which is dangerous, and because they're greedy, from what I've heard. And probably would want twice as much money as they've spent on the club should they decide to sell it. I hope that doesn't happen. I'm still, hopefully it doesn't happen. Another question I want to ask you, Tobago, is this: do you think it's a distraction? Because the truth is, mainly the topic right now will be the addition of the Rock Entertainment Group to their group, and not the fact of not their past. If you ask me, your thoughts. Do you
To be
think it's
honest,
a distraction?
yes, I think it's a distraction.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, it looks more like a political move to me, and people, they have strong political grounds. They have strong political connections. They might have advised them to create some form of distraction, which is adding the Rock Entertainment Group because already they have what's his name? They have Ken Griffin, who is also very rich and can help them acquire the club. Should if that's the case. So I don't know why they're going for Rock Entertainment Group. I did some research on them. They're not really that big. So but we'll talk about that further. Bobby, welcome to the panel. Always nice to have you around.
Hi, Coach. Hi, everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, good.
Good. So, Bobby, I'll start by asking you a question right away. The question I want to ask you is this: like I've told Tobago, I'm sure these guys they are well aware of the pushback from the club. the pushback, the 75% of the Chelsea trust who who disapprove of them. And so why are they still trying to become the new owners of Chelsea Football Club?
I've, in the midst of everything that's been going on at Chelsea, I think if you were there yesterday and you could tap into the atmosphere, the fans are hurting. It's more than the Ricketts. It's the whole sanctions, the whole trying to come to terms with not having Roman around anymore, because whether people like it or not, Roman was really, really close to the Chelsea fan base, as well as owning the club and running the club excellently. And the whole attack on the club by the media, even by the FA. I know that deep down in all our hearts, we know that we were robbed of the League Cup final. We know that we've been robbed of a couple of FA Cup finals before that. We know what happened to us over the Christmas period. And now that Chelsea are on their knees, suddenly they feel it's a good time to introduce 5 substitutes next season and all that. Although perhaps the World Cup also has something to do with that. Listen, I'm going to say something that's not going to be very popular, because over the years, I have learned to think more with my head than my heart in many situations that I cannot change. The whole Ricketts thing, the turnout yesterday should have been an indicator. You see, we need to be pragmatic here a little bit. What are we actually saying? Who is actually in charge of this consortium? Is it the Ricketts, or are they just the front of the consortium? Now, what we fail to be addressing as far as these bidders are concerned, when Roman bought Chelsea, it was done in a way and at a time where nobody really knew it was going to happen, number one, and nobody knew anything about him until it happened. And there are still members of the fan base that take issue with him over this whole kind of Palestinian thing, which, due to his background, he's not really ever come out to say or feel a need to apologize for. Now, the Ricketts, on the other hand, have tried to walk back these emails, and I underline that. And we're living in a world where a lot of offenses are committed via social media, emails, tweets, and things that after some time you can't retract. Now, I haven't done much serious research into these people. But each time I look at what was said and when it was said, I take into context the environment with which it was said. And I think Tom Ricketts made that statement in and around when we went through a period of some terrorist attacks and things like that. It was just generalized, misjudged emotion. Now, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form this is acceptable, but I am saying that, look, our club is at stake here. Roman wasn't a choir boy. Neither was he somebody that didn't cause some people some offense. But his handling of Chelsea Football Club was immaculate, impeccable, such that we're all still in mourning now. Is it so unrealistic to feel that if a consortium with the Ricketts in it could not do the same, when they have come out and they've said, look, the whole diversity and that we are part of that, we're going to champion that. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, words are cheap, yes, but all they have now is words because they don't own the club, and neither is it likely that they will. But we need to avoid being too reactionary and start to respond and start to be a bit intelligent. Because you see, the world is all about dealing with people that 9 times out of 10 won't even like you in your day-to-day life. And yet we navigate that whole situation. I just feel that maybe out of the fact that we are already hurting from all the things that have happened to the club, just as Roman was an easy target for the government, the Ricketts have become an easy target for fans' frustration. I don't know. It's what I'm saying is not popular, but it's real. Because if tomorrow they do become the owners, we've got to find a way to deal with it and give them a chance. So we've registered our feeling. We've demonstrated for all it's worth. I won't really go into that too much because there was a kind of split emotion with that. And generally, everybody's like, you know what, we don't really want them. But when you look at the other members of that consortium, you have to ask questions. You start, what is this? What are we really looking to achieve here? And that's all I'm saying. I don't know if all this is just, I don't know. I don't look, and even yesterday, I really, really believe, you see all this that we're doing, it's not helping the team. The atmosphere in the stadium was docile. It was hot. It was so, it wasn't a nice, it was just damp, for want of a better word. And it transmitted to the players. Now we've got some big games coming up. Let's
Here's the
start
thing,
to
Bobby.
let's just focus a bit more on football.
Here's the
You
thing.
know,
Go ahead when you're done.
I just think, all this, it's getting an already depressed situation even more depressing. And we could be sabotaging ourselves on and off the pitch. We've made our point. Let them prove to us that they are not that way. And let's focus on getting behind those boys that are giving it all they've got in a very uncertain situation for many of them, especially the ones with contracts coming up. We're creating a depression and it's not healthy. That's just my feeling, honestly.
I totally understand your point. I would be lying if I say I don't understand where you're coming from. But the fact is this, they say the best form of protection is avoidance. Now we have choices. We have choices. There's a possibility that the Ricketts will become Chelsea new owners, the new owners of Chelsea Football Club tomorrow. There's also the possibility Todd Bowley Group will become the new owners of Chelsea Football Club tomorrow. There's also the Martin Broughton Group. But because we have a choice, we have to look at those choices and say, okay, which one is the least preferred? Which one will cause us less problems? And remember, Bobby, we have to be factual here, and that's why I'm happy DJ Saab did put it the way he did, the way he was on the panel here, where he said, look, we don't want this. We don't want this, guys, for obvious reasons. We're still paying for racial discrimination issues we've had at Chelsea Football Club a long time ago. So why should we even allow this guy, entertain these guys becoming new owners of Chelsea Football Club? To me, it's a huge risk. To me, it just seems as if we haven't learned anything from the past. You get my point, guys. The fact that we have a choice to make, I know Archers doesn't, everything comes down to those at the table making the decision on who become the new Chelsea owners, but at least we can make our voices heard because we have four groups to choose from, but it's our responsibility. That is, we have to show that is our dislike for any of the groups we don't like, and for obvious reasons, we have to protest
Coach,
because
can I
it's going to
just
cost us. Yeah, I'll let you come in, Bobby. It's going to cost us a lot of problems. First of all, PR nightmare. That's serious. And how are those Muslim contingents at our club, how will they feel? And it's not just that, Bobby. I know what you're talking about, the 9/11 period and when the other stuff happened. The situation. It wasn't just their father. A whole lot of people also did some, perpetuated some discriminatory acts against Muslims. That's the truth. But it's just beyond that. There's how they treat their workers. There's the increase in ticket prices for 2 seasons in a row. There's also the statement about black people. There's also them trying to avoid having an access for disabled people at the stadium just to save money. There's also a whole lot of stuff that their brother who hold high offices in the country, things they've said. So more importantly, my point is that we have a choice now to make. So since we have to make a choice, we have to say, okay, we prefer this. We don't want this. There's nothing wrong in that. It hasn't happened, and I'm hopeful it hasn't happened. And I think, Bobby, if my memory serves me right, I've heard you say you don't think it's going to happen. But go ahead, you want to say something so that I can bring in the two other brothers on the panel.
Yes, please. Sorry to just cut in. I want
No
to
problem.
bring some balance here. I still don't think it's going to happen as long as their bid remains as it is. But you see, sometimes an opposition makes a serious bid gather more strength. And if it gathers more strength in the sense of its consortium, then it's quite likely to happen. And why I say this is that, look, as far as I'm concerned, this is just my opinion. I think we've made our point. I think we've made it clear that Chelsea Football Club is for diversity, inclusivity, and is against any form of discrimination. So anybody buying the club will know that that's where they're coming into. Now, we need to be careful not to create a problem when there may not be a problem. And why I say this is that I've been supporting Chelsea a long time. I look in the stadium and I smile when I see some people that were once one of the biggest racists you could ever find holding up placards saying no to the Ricketts. Now they've changed. I accept that. They've changed. But you see, the whole world is changing. Many people's attitudes to many things change with time. And we can't be stuck in something that happened in the past in order and end up inhibiting our future out of pride, offense. I mean, goodness me, I've seen these black players. They've had bananas thrown at them. They've been through so much.
Which, if I can comment, which is why we shouldn't even entertain if it is up to us.
Yes and no. When people turn around and tell you, look, I'm sorry, I've changed, you have to move on. A lot of these black players have moved on from the things they experienced in the past. And I just think maybe we're running the risk of making too much out of this. And I can assure you it is beginning to affect the players. They don't know what to think. People telling the Muslim players, oh, you should be feeling like this. You should be feeling like that, when initially they're not. They don't care. They just want their wages paid and to play their football. And I don't know. This is becoming OTT, in my opinion. I really think so.
Okay, I get your point. Again, we see things different. I like you always like to strike a balance, in situations like this. But I think, to me, this is not something that can be easily swept under the floor. Yes, it can affect the players. Yes, it can. And because we've talked about it here before also, saying the more we're talking about how that will affect the Muslim contingents, Chelsea Muslim contingents. It will get to them, they're humans. But then again, we must consider there are other factors that led to, the cost of the team to perform the way they did yesterday. The international break, the fact they are well aware of the ownership conundrum, or if you want to put it that way, or issues that will get to them, or because that's a serious question mark over the future of the club. But that's by the way, Matt. I want to bring you in before I go to Seed. Matt, your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, Bobby summed it up very, very well. I wanted him to finish that whole point because he said a lot of great stuff. But I think what we can't do right now, and as you said, if it was up to us, obviously we wouldn't want these people at our club. And obviously it isn't up to us. So there is a chance that they can still be coming. But I've always said from the start, societal attitudes are looking towards that they will not come to the club. There's no way that a group who's been exposed to obviously all these racial stuff and all those things they've done will come to a club where, as Bobby said, we spread diversity and we're equal and all that. And obviously, I saw the protest yesterday. I think it was a bit of a shame there wasn't a lot of people there, and majority of the rival fans were saying that a racist club was protesting for not racial owners, and it still has the ideology that Chelsea is a racist club. So it's really shocking that the obviously Real fans haven't woken up to that and still in the past. But the only thing I'm looking forward to in this is hopefully Todd Bowie comes in. No one really wanted him. He was a backup option. He's looking like he's leading the race. I do think he will win the race at the end of the day and be the new Chelsea owner because, as I said, it's him or the Ricketts at the moment, and the Ricketts are not going to come in due to societal attitudes. There's no way that they will get a group like them in a club where they're not welcome. Obviously, we've got players who, I've said this multiple times. We don't know if it's true that much, but verbally stated that some players will feel uncomfortable if you've got a owner who doesn't like their kind of people. So they're not. It's not going to be happening. I don't see it, but obviously we still need to keep up the protests and all that because that's the minimum we can do. Do I think they work? It's hard to say. I don't think there's evidence supporting that protest would do a maximum thing, but it does do a minimal thing in spreading awareness to other Chelsea fans, and then we can grab a board and obviously get to the committees, and then that's who it influences, the committees more than the owners, because the owners are not going to back out. The Ricketts are not going to back out. There's no way. It's more the committees will have to reject them. So we'll see what happens with the committee.
Yeah, good input. They're not going to back out. This is a great opportunity for them. And like Declan said that the other day, they thrive when you don't want them. That's what they do. Even the cops fans don't want them now, but they can't leave. And they are business people. Should they decide to sell the Cubs, or if eventually they emerge as the new owners of Chelsea Football Club and they decide to sell, they would want a huge gain. And again, I always like to listen to Bobby, and I like the way he always finds balance between situations. But the truth is, like I'm repeating myself again because this is important. We just have to make our voices heard. We have a choice to make, and we have to say we don't want a group A or group B. We want group for obvious reasons. How do we explain that? I'm going to come to that question. Seed, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm fine. How are you?
Brilliant. I can't complain. Nice to have you on the panel again. I know yesterday was your first time, but the question I have for you: why do you think that the Ricketts haven't given up? Because any sensible business owner or manager at this point will say, "Why are they pushing back? We should just let it go. We shouldn't be spending money. It looks like there's no opportunity for us here." But to me, if you ask me, I'd say they're persistent because they seem to have some insider. That's again my theory. Who's told them just don't drop out. You're gonna get this. Your thoughts?
I think Bruce Buck is the insider, first of all. He's the one who is helping them. And secondly, Chelsea is now a global fan base. I think, 7 coast due from India here.
Hmm.
And the Chelsea fan base is very large here. And I think it's a global fan base which can help you sell merchandise, different sort of things. Here we have a tie-up where we can fly to England from a company who's tie-up with Chelsea to watch matches and
Hmm.
low cost and other discounts also. So it's a global. It might be in other countries also. So it's a global fan base. So why don't you want to gain money out of that? What they did with cups was increase ticket prices, uh, send cups to debt of around 1 billion, and these type of things. They can get maximum loan out of Chelsea, because currently Chelsea is debt free because Roman releases the debt of 1.5 billion. So they can get the loan out of Chelsea also. So it's the best scenario for them to buy the club and then take money out of it, just like Lizards.
Wow, that's a simple and short answer. The business focused and profit focused people, because we've read quite a lot about them. I'm not gonna go into trying to discuss individually things that we've heard about them. I'm going to come to you. I've asked Tobago this question, but I'll come back to you, Bobby. The question is this: I know, I understand you always try to strike a balance, and I've learned quite a lot from that. And again, if you remember the first time we talked about them on this show, we made it clear that we're not judging them by what their father said on the email, but it's gone beyond the email now. And I'm sure you're well acquainted with the whole thing. We've talked about them here. Now, do you think this is some form of distraction, just to to make sure to that is to, for people to start talking about the Rock Entertainment Group joining their consortium, or rather than talking about the Ricketts themselves?
For me, as I keep saying, I don't believe they're going to buy the clubs, and I'll say that again. But what really swings that more than anything is their track record of ownership. If their track record of ownership has been poor, to me, that is enough to say that they will be poor. Because as I've said, when Roman first took over Chelsea,
Mm-hmm.
nobody knew anything about him. But the first thing I knew about Roman when he took over was that his track record of ownership of sporting institutions was very successful. And he came and proved that at Chelsea. So to me, that's the strike that strikes them out. Now, the other members of the consortium, is that a distraction? Well, yes and no. Yes, it might be to take your focus off the Ricketts, and no, in that if they are indeed part of the consortium, then they should be noticed anyway. The truth of the matter is that they are one of, I think, 4 or maybe even 5 other front runners. I was listening to the Martin Broughton consortium bid the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we know a lot about Todd Bowley, and I think there are indeed 1 or maybe even 2 others. So, I mean, these people all the others are also equally serious bids. Financially, well, finances is a lot. It is a big part of this. You're going to have to be financially strong and capable to take over Chelsea. They shouldn't give it to people that are going to run it into the ground or come and rape it of funds. That's not
Mm-hmm.
what it's about. So I'm not sure I actually buy that. I know people could sell that because there's competition going, and the rivals may try and leak certain things into the public sphere to influence how fans feel. That might be why the Martin Broughton consortium are all non-disclosed and will not be disclosed until the time comes, which I think is a bit weird, but that's how they want to approach things. So, yeah, I mean, we're right to stand up for what the club means, diversity. Somebody mentioned equality, but I have to make it known, I don't believe in equality. I don't think it exists. Why? Because we're all different. The word equality is a myth. I believe in inclusion. I believe in tolerance, and I believe in equal opportunity. But equality per se is an impossibility, but that's another point. But that aside, I mean, we are diverse, we are inclusive, we give equal opportunities, and we embrace our diversity at Chelsea Football Club. So if that is what this demonstration against the Ricketts puts forward, then I think the fans have done very well. And that point has been made abundantly clear. But in terms of the final selection process, it's definitely out of our hands, and it's certainly a bit more complicated than it would appear on the surface.
I know you weren't on the panel the day we talked about Bruce Buck. Can I just ask you that maybe you give me a response to that, his behavior, regarding his behavior very quickly before I go to Tobago and Matt. I mean, Bruce Buck being the one to arrange a meeting between the Ricketts family and Paul Carneville. And he also did not just arrange the meeting, he sat there. He participated. Your thoughts on that? Because that erased the argument whether the whole process has been compromised. And to surprisingly, most people learned that Bruce Boyd is a lawyer too. Why would they do that? And I heard he led to other groups that are vying to become new owners of Chelsea Football Club complaining about that. What do you think? Because that's the reason I'm beginning to think maybe these guys in the matter would think, even though the fact we think we have the board participating in the selection process, that they will never, emerge as new Chelsea owners. But I'm concerned mainly because of Bruce Buck's behavior.
First of all, I'm not. I mean, I was made to understand that all the preferred bidders have been invited to meet the supporters trust, and certainly at this stage they are permitted to look at the finances of the club. So there are lots of introductions, engagements, and things going on behind the scenes that we aren't fully aware of, apart from this. But hey, look, Bruce Buck has a track record, doesn't he? He reminds me of that uncle that we all have that's always going to embarrass the family. Thinks they're doing well.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That's hilarious, but go ahead.
Yeah, he thinks they're doing well, but just ends up being, being a mess. That's Bruce Buck. The sooner we get new ownership and he is relieved of his positions, the better, because he's made a number of, shall I say, PR miscalculations. So I don't know. I mean, the fact that he is having some part to do with this process is a little bit disturbing, but we have to remember he's not alone. So he's just one of, I think, certainly from the Chelsea board point of view, one of three. And I would like to think that Marina, who has Roman in her ear, and Eugene might be a little bit more level-headed. But I don't know is my answer. I don't really. I thought that courtesy was extended to all the bidders, but if it hasn't been, then it's a problem, and it's a further problem to the Ricketts going forward, because it will be a challenge from the other bidders, which I think is a bigger threat than what the fans are doing.
Yeah, I think he in fact did say that all the bidders are welcome to arrange a meeting, but that was after the complaints. You get the point now. That was after the other bidders started complaining. So it was already an issue before he said that. It was a bit too late, and he was actually trying to justify his behavior. I don't think it makes sense at all. And the meeting, actually, I heard, was held at Stamford Bridge. So that's really concerning to a whole lot of people. Some people even started calling him Judas. But go ahead.
That's Bruce Buck all over, isn't it? I mean, he keeps dropping the ball. Now, he may have done that innocently. He may have insight into the Ricketts. He may not be convinced that they are racist, and he may have thought, well, in order to get this off the table, why not come and meet so-and-so so they can see you and get to know who you are and what you're about. That is more, to me, more how it sounds than anything more sinister. But then you see, as I've said, Bruce Buck is that uncle that old uncle that's always going to embarrass you and will continue to do so far as he's associated or
Yeah,
invited to
I'm never
family
gonna
dues.
forget that.
You know,
His bad news all over again. He led us into what's it called, the Super League and all
yeah.
that. But we'll come back to that. Now, let me quickly breeze through the comments that I've highlighted because this is supposed to be an interactive show. And I'll come back to Nick Blue, who did a great job yesterday showing us live images from Stamford Bridge during the peaceful protest designed to make our voices heard. Just Viola here said, I don't know how I will really deal with them. I've done my research and they are, you see that on your screen yourself. I don't like calling people names. And this is Almighty Blues FC saying, but going by today's news, they are getting even more investment. However, I think the crowd in the stadium need to focus on backing the team for 90 minutes. Our first half wasn't great at all. We were tired. Here's the
Totally
thing.
agree.
I think, yeah, we were tired really. And Bobby did say something about the fans. I think I don't know if he used the word exhausted. This whole thing is weighing on us. Not even the Ricketts alone. The fact that the ownership conundrum is weighing on us fans. To me, I hardly sleep these days thinking about Chelsea Football Club. And if you ask other people, I think you will get some similar responses too. I think
Coach, please,
yes,
please, can I just? We are all traumatized emotionally by this,
yes,
but
yes.
what
Yes.
we cannot do and should not do as fans is when we are in that stadium within touching distance of our team. This
Mm,
is the time we've got to give it all we've got for the team. That
mm,
silence yesterday, it peed me off no end. It really, really riled me because those boys are depending on us to get them through those games, to uplift their games. And what are we
mm.
doing? Sulking? There's nothing worse than a grown up that sulks. If there's ever a repeat of that again, I probably won't even go to the stadium anymore. I was sickened by the attitudes of our fans for the first time ever. I'm one of the biggest exponents of Chelsea fans, home and away. But yesterday, forget criticizing the team. The fans were a disgrace. You should have got behind the team.
Yeah, I think the support from the fans, honestly, it was below par. It's not even close to an acceptable measure. I think probably because of they started out demonstrating earlier on and they got tired out because they're humans after all. And like we've established, we are suffering, and that's the truth. The players themselves, they looked downcast because they are aware of this whole thing that's going on, and there's no way it won't get to them, mentally and otherwise. Plus the international break, there are a whole lot of factors to talk about. You know, why they performed so poorly yesterday. But that's by the way. Let me continue reading the comments here. Sarah says they didn't just speak on Muslims where they termed them the enemy. That's narrowing the breadth of their toxicity. They also made racial insults towards Asian and Black people. We've thought, yeah, exactly. So a whole lot of stuff to talk about, but we're just here, to talk about the new entrant, the new addition to their group, whether that is a distraction or maybe they just try to improve their financial base. Because if you ask me, I say already they're one of the strongest in terms of finances available to them because of Ken Griffin himself. There's also the possibility that Ken Griffin wouldn't want to foot much of the bill to purchase Chelsea Football Club. The addition of a Rock Entertainment Group is will be a welcome development for him, given that he will spend less now. It depends. I don't know how much the Rock Entertainment Group is worth, but that's a good input there from Sal. And Roman hardly spoke to the media fans, but he let the team do the job with his financial backing and was ruthless in decision, which got us that winning mentality. But in background was A plus to society. Yeah, he was. TC says, Almighty, that is my issue. we might end up buying average players with the Ricketts a takeover. That's a possibility because they like to save money given what we've learned. And again, it's important to know that the accusation on them trying removing assets for disabled people, that still will be an accusation until we see an official statement from the government body that's responsible in ensuring that stadiums, those aspects, the access to our disabled people are added to stadium structures. After a protest yesterday, I will be amazed if the Premier League let the Ricketts own Chelsea Football Club. Here's the point, something I want to let you know. The Premier League could care less how much you protest. To them, it's nothing. They have all the factors that they would check during the vetting process and not the demonstration. It wouldn't move them a beat. He will not move them a beat, but he will send a message to the Chelsea board. He will also send a message to the Ricketts family, but it doesn't look like he moves them. But at least we're hoping that our boards will hear our voices and say, okay, the fans don't want this, guys. What they would do. Nick, can you come in on that comment on the screen? Nick, do we still have you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's that? What's he say?
It says after the protest yesterday, I will be amazed if the Premier League let the Ricketts own Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah, well, we don't know. The Premier League, like you said, don't care much about us.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't care less. But I want to make some other points because,
Mm-hmm.
I heard a lot of things, some good points from Bobby, but some I don't agree at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because, look, I was there yesterday. We turned up early, 11 in the morning, for that protest. I was lucky enough, I got a ticket the other night by luck, on the internet. Just happened to have a ticket as well. We all met up, all the major channels, Blue Lounge, Jay, Matisse, Jonas, everyone, all us, all them channels, mostly all channels, but some didn't turn up at all. And the thing is, we thought it was going to be massive. It should have been, but it wasn't. There was 200 of us shouting and making more noise than the 41,000 fans inside the ground. Because I was one of the fans in the ground. We made more noise inside. And the reason why the fans were so quiet, because they feel guilty, because they saw us protesting and they ignored us. They just walked past like nothing's happening, going into the ground early. They were there from 12 o'clock, thousands of them, going into the pubs, going into the ground to have a coffee or whatever, and ignoring us. We even tried to persuade them to join us. I went personally to that pub across the road, and it was packed out. I listened, I don't know how many people, it was packed solid. That pub was always packed. And they let me in because I was telling them that they should be over here, not in here, over the road, not here. And they got pissed off and they wouldn't let me in. That's why I have, a very, I never thought that I would see this in this day of age now. I saw it in the past, but the problem is most of our fans are racist. Fascists and racist, that's what they are. So you can't, don't lie to yourselves if you think it's not, but that's how it is. I went in the ground, and Matisse was given the little leaflets. You saw me holding one, with them leaflets, and giving them around. But who you think had a leaflet in the ground? All right, they banned us. They said to us, oh, no banners, no leaflets. Anyone holding a leaflet, we're going to abandon them. And all this, but I didn't care. They were telling me the truth. I said, just sit over there and do your job. I said to him, and I hold my leaflet facing Bruce back on the board for half an hour, and that was the only fucking leaflet. Sorry for swearing, in the bloody ground. And the fans said they were quiet because they saw what was going on, and they don't because they're against a lot of religions. They are racist. I thought they were all gone, but they're not gone. most of our fans are racist. So get it to your head. And if that's not enough, after the game, I didn't come out early on purpose. I waited to be one of the last. Because I was thinking, what's going on with these channels? Why wasn't there here? The Shedden supposed to have a big protest where they disappeared completely. There was no Shedden boys, what you see on Twitter, the big account. There was not one of them there. And so I hung around to see what's going on. I thought I'll hang around and go see Chelsea Fan TV. So I walked up there and I could see them. And Luis was there. Luis is the only one I don't have a grudge against, but the rest of them, I don't want to say this, picking on me, but the English lot didn't want me to be there. I could see in their faces. Well, one of them, I don't want to mention names, one of them said, trying to push me away. Because then you had someone talking on there. I don't want to name names again. I want to, but I shouldn't. And he was talking about, he went to the game. He was on a Friday night. He had a big space with a few people. Maybe, I don't know, Bobby was on his space. I don't know. And he was talking about these protests is a lot. We have to all be there. We have to go in our thousands. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And guess what? He wasn't even there at the protest. I had a word with him as well. I said to him, why didn't you come to the protest then? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. What's that mean? They're bloody racist, that's what.
Okay, let me ask this question, Bobby.
Just quickly, just quickly say that I think Nick was spot on, and I did say this a couple weeks ago that these Rickett family here is in a core division in our football club, because there's one part who as Nick said, didn't want to come protest because they're not focused on that point. And as you said, the protests, the only people that were there, and I saw an article on it, were majority young people, and that was majority from Twitter. So the only people who go to those are the real passionate fans about Chelsea, because they know everything about Chelsea. Well, we've got these Chelsea fans who just go to the games, they go to the pub, they go home. They don't focus outside of football, and that's the split we have between Chelsea fans, and that's when we need to come together, because that's the most important. They don't think about the future; they think what's going to happen in the next 90 minutes on that pitch, and then they'll go home and then they go to the pub, and that's the division we need to glue together and bring as one.
Yeah, I think that brings to mind to what Bobby said. I think if we overreact, I think we'll let the whole situation divide us, and it's already dividing us already. The fact is, the poll was it? I don't know if they used the poll. The Chelsea supporters trust, they say 77% or so, which means there's still 23% is still supporting the Ricketts. That's concerning. Staff did say that the number should be a little higher, but that's by the way. I want to ask this question, and let me start from you, Matt, and then I'll go to Bag. I want Bobby to be the one to speak on this last, and I'll go to. I know we still have Sid here. Matt, the fact Nick at the stadium yesterday told us that they were told to keep the banners. Do you think that's an effort to suppress the protest? Because it seems to me that that's what it was. Why would you ask them not to show the banners?
No, of course, and obviously because Bruce Buck was there, they had to, calm it down and not show the truth. So it's technically, I hate to say it, but it's technically like, I don't know how to describe it, but the way that they did that was horrible, and it was a very bad look. And because there was no one who had the banners, like Nick said, it didn't go publicly. If every single Chelsea fan had a banner or a pamphlet, whatever it was, and they held it up, strong and high.
Because here's the thing: if I can comment quickly, Matt, I'll let you complete this, because that alone can dampen the spirit of the numbers we have there. Yeah, we didn't have the biggest number, but those that left their homes to protest as a stadium, and they got to the stadium, they were free singing out loud outside the stadium, and inside the stadium, you ask them to not show their banners. To me, that's a suppression measure. And like when I discussed this with Mikhail yesterday, his response was that it looks like the Ricketts they've infiltrated the hierarchy of Chelsea Football Club. And you could argue that where in the world, in a civilized world, nobody's holding a banner says that's saying kill this person or do this, harm the other person. They're just holding up a banner saying we don't want this person. And the most thing I see, they say something like "buck off." I don't see anything wrong in that. In a civilized world, you don't stop people from showing their banners if they're protesting. It is suppression for me.
It's
So you go
it's a
ahead,
lack of
Matt.
freedom of speech from there. You know,
Yeah,
they're not upholding their freedom of speech, and that's technically you could not in the UK, but if that was in obviously your country, there, Coachella, America, then it would technically be classified as illegal that they're suppressing their freedom of speech. So
yeah.
what they're doing there is horrible, and obviously the Ricketts, because they're contenders for getting the bid, that they don't want to make them look bad and make them pull out, because obviously they're gonna pump a lot of money into the club. So it's more not the Ricketts, it's more Bruce Buck and all the communists in the Chelsea community, so in the community, in like the admin role, who want to stop people's freedom of speech. And that's where it's not good, because then we're going to make ourselves look even worse than we are, and that's something we should not be doing. We have to make ourselves look as good as we can, get these people out of the club, and we're stopping our voices to be heard. Us holding a banner, or not me, but like obviously the people at the stadium not allowed to hold their banner, shows the respect that admins have for the Chelsea fan base, and it's horrible.
Yeah, I think you make a
I
great point. Coming to you, Tobago, do you think that's a suppression measure to ask those people not to show their banners?
Yeah,
Okay,
to be
listen.
honest.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. To be honest, I don't know what is happening there. So I will let the guys who are there just to give us more information, because, like, to be honest, I don't know their feeling, what they were feeling when they were there.
Mhm. There's no telling. There's no telling, really. I'm coming to you. Coming to you, Seed. Are you still there, Seed? What do you think
Yeah,
about the fact that those in the stadium that went to protest were asked not to show their banners, and they
I
and
think
they enforced
we are
it?
the.
They enforced it. Yeah, go ahead. Because
I think that
Nick here,
we
and
are
by the
the
way,
shared.
Nick, thank you so much. And Nick, we saw you in front of a newspaper. That is a digital. I'll show you on the screen later. Nick was in the stadium. He told us what was happening. He couldn't even bring his banner, but he was able to like lower it down and show it to us. He said specifically they were asked not to, show their banners, and he wasn't forced. So your thoughts, Seed?
I think that we are shared and also made a banner which was a no to Ricketts, and it was also not allowed to be published on the shed end, which the big banners that are floating around shed end. They also stopped that, and it is because I think the Ricketts are using their money power by suppressing us and using them in the hierarchy role. That Buck, I think what everybody thinks is different, but I think that Buck is going to get a good payout from this
Mm.
by the Ricketts if he gets his bid successful.
Yeah, there's a possibility. You never know. Now, Bobby, I'm going to come back to you. And you heard the question I asked the other brothers on the panel, that those that protested outside, once they came into the stadium, they were asked not to show their banners. Why is that? Because to me, that's that is it. They're suppressing their freedom, their right to speak their mind.
Um, as I said, I'm trying my best to bring a balance to this and to keep it real at the same time. What I've noticed from this No to the Ricketts
Campaign.
campaign, as it were, a vast majority of this is coming from outside the country.
Mhm.
For us in the country, you see, English football culture has always been about escapism. The common man found a way to get away from the difficulties and the challenges of his day, his week, and found this outlet where he could go and expressed emotion supporting his local team. And
Mm.
this was the foundation of which this culture is about. And it's spread and spread and grown to what it is today. People aren't really into politics, and people are very, very weary of woke politics. And so the common guy that just goes to watch Chelsea and has loved Chelsea all his life is at the moment already emotionally traumatized by what has happened, but is exhausted and tired by all of it. And I would say that in as much as they support and understand this no to the Ricketts thing, it's so deep in its application and meaning that people are waiting and saying, look, are we being a bit reactive here? One, we don't even know if they're in, and two, the truth of the matter is that you will never really know about somebody until you're with them. You will never know your wife until you marry her and live with her. That's when you know who she is. And this is more or less the same sort of situation. Now, why were banners stopped? In my view, that is suspect. I don't particularly like that. And I do think it is a suppression of freedom of speech. There's quite a bit of that going around lately. But then on the other hand, there is a tender process in process. And when a tender process is in process, you're not really meant to be influencing the outcome of the tender. This is business speak I'm giving here. Is that a reason? Maybe part of it. I think probably it's more the former than the later. But the fact is that it is unusual in a tender process for people to start saying they don't like this bidder or that bidder without
Mm.
the bidding going through the correct due diligence and the correct tender process. So that is the practical um, speak around it, probably a practical reason. Could it lead to some kind of challenge if the Ricketts are not given the ownership? Probably,
Mm.
because
Mm.
they could say that they were unfairly treated, and that before while they were in the bidding process, the club allowed demonstrations against them, which they felt were unjustified, unfair, to
Mm.
take place. So, that's what I'm saying about nowadays trying to reason more with your heads than your hearts, and at the same time keeping your heart, but knowing that sometimes your heart will force you to be reactionary to things rather than
Mm.
responding to things.
Yeah,
But
I
Bobby,
think
don't
you.
you think?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, ask him, Bobby. I think Sita has a question for you. Go ahead.
But Bobby, don't you think their sporting background enhance fans to do the protest and all? Because it's not about the racial discrimination and all. It's about what you see. And you said that you know about Roman Abramovich before he came, that he has a good sporting background. And Ricketts are not having a good sporting background at Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, let me I said that I didn't know about Roman, and as soon as he took over the club, the first thing I got to know was his sporting background in terms of sports institutions he has run, and he was very successful, and that would and that eventually replicated into Chelsea. Now, that aspect of the Ricketts successes, as it were, or failures, will be part of the tender process. They may, I'm not saying I know what the tender document looks like, but they may have to provide records of their handling of sporting establishments. People are talking about them removing disabled facilities. I can assure you, Health and Safety England would not allow that to happen at Chelsea for sure. So forget that. That is law in this country. So, all these things that we are reacting to, sometimes we have to allow the process. They may have to provide, for example, a question could be, in as much as it's been rumored that a question there is that, they have to have the ability to immediately invest £1 billion into the club. A question could be, provide your track record over the past 5 years of successes of the various sports institutions that you've run, and evidence of this. Now, if they've run the Chicago Cubs badly, they won't be able to do that. Whereas Tom Bowley with his Dodgers probably can do that. And that might be why they brought in this guy that's the owner of is it the Cavaliers? What's
Yes,
his name?
Yeah.
the Rock Entertainment Group.
Yeah, as a track record of success with running sporting institutions. Now, is that good for the club if they eventually take over? Of course it is, because success breeds success. So I just think let's just be a bit calm. We're getting too emotional. People say things that hurt people all the time. And I always deflect back to black players. Look at people like John Barnes, even before him, Laurie Cunningham, Cyril Regis. They went through hell on earth. But the same people that gave them so much trouble have turned around and been those same people that elevate them today. People change, opinions change, and sometimes you cannot detach yourself from humanity, no matter how bad it is. What you have to do is get in there and conquer it and win it over and change things. So we've made our point clear. These people know the club they're buying. They know the people. They know the fan base. We are a now integrated, diverse, tolerant, non-discriminatory football club. That's what Chelsea Football Club represents now. Forget the 70s, forget the 80s. Those were different times when these things happened, not just at Chelsea. People like to point out Chelsea because it's a very famous club. Let me tell you, I was around back then, and I will tell you that there was no club in England that you will go to that you would not see rife racism. And I'm not talking racism of sending emails and text messages. I'm talking of physical brutality. So let's get that right. That doesn't exist anymore. And even if there were people that you could see, they're a heck of a lot older now. I look at some of them and I smile, and I remember some of the things that they would do back then. But that was back then. That was the society then. They probably did it to fit in those days. There were groups that used to come to football clubs, not just Chelsea. Certain groups, they were vile, nasty, cruel human beings. But they went in there because it was an environment that they could thrive. All that has gone now. We can't keep bringing and living in that past. And I don't think Chelsea has anything to do with that. And I've seen both sides. So these people know what they're coming to. Chelsea will not go back there. I can assure you, they will
Yeah,
not.
that's one thing you've said like a million times that I appreciate so much. Chelsea will not go back there, and you can say that's one of the reasons why. When you look at it, you say you don't see the possibility of them becoming the owner. But I like you always liking, to find a balance between what we want and what that is what the possibilities are. Go ahead, Bobby, if you're not done yet. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, I think I've made my point. As I've just said, I guess all I'm saying is that sometimes reality is not always sweet, and sometimes we have to be able to live with the bitterness in order to turn it sweet. And if people have transgressed in the past, it doesn't rule them out, and sometimes it makes them better going forward. If that mistake is, but a lot of the time, some people are horrified when they look at themselves and they see some of the things they've done in the past, especially when it comes to things like racism and that, because it's not a natural human instinct. It's quite an abnormal human instinct, to be honest. And a lot of them, unless you have some mental health issues, when it's really pointed out to them in the cold light of day, they're quite horrified at themselves. And if they have an opportunity to redeem that, they kind of go overboard. My concern is that these guys will come in and start bringing in too much of this sort of overtly woke liberal attitude, which in itself is problematic. We just want normalcy. We just want people to be accepted for who they are, not for the color of their skin or what they believe in or their their religion or things like that. We don't want any of these sort of weird, overt, strange things. Well, I don't anyway. So that's just the point I'm making.
Yeah, great argument right there. And I'm gonna breeze through the chat. You wanted to say something, Sid?
Yeah, I just want to add another point that on Chicago Cubs that they are 24th in their MLB, and the fact that they are not run properly, if they can cover it up with their balance sheets and all, because they release stuff like merchandise, tickets price going high, they can show that they are making profit. But it's not about profit; it's about how you are running the club. People in Chicago are not happy with their owners.
Sid, that's why they brought in this guy with, I think, 23.9 billion behind him that owns the Cavaliers. I think that's why they brought him in, because he definitely is successful. So this is the thing with consortiums. It's not just about one person, one group. It's about the group. And I think in order to answer that question, they brought in a successful sporting institutional owner in the hope that that will rectify the failings of the Ricketts family and their ownership of the Cubs.
Yeah, I think again that may be the reason why they reached out to them, their financial backing, and also the experience in running a sports team. I'll come back to you again, Bobby. I just wanted to say big up to my Niger brother,
Coach, can I make
Eric.
one point?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. Let me breeze. Let me go through the chat quickly, if you don't mind. What you say, Nick? Should I go ahead?
Yeah,
Let me just go through the chat. Okay, yeah.
Do the chat
I want to
first.
say.
I just want to. I want to make the point before I forget. All right.
Okay.
Let's all go. Carry on.
All right. I want to say hello to my Niger brother, Eric Blue. How you there? I hope you're fine. And nice to always see you here supporting the channel. And we have Ray Allen who said money talks, and Ricketts can just buy Chelsea supporters. I'm not gonna, because I think there's a way you try to navigate the obstacles you have with money, and then you fall into the trap of bribery. It's easy, just like this. Before you know, you'll be talking about a different problem altogether. I don't think they will risk that. Those the parties or the players that is a place in terms of the sale of the club, could reach out to media groups, influence them to write stories, influence them to publish something about their opponent, which is done if you're not tarnishing anybody's image. If in fact you have you can prove what you're saying about any of the parties, I don't think they will risk trying to buy the fan. It's a risk trying to buy the fans. You fall into the trap of bribery, which could disqualify you, and that in itself is a big issue in the United States. And the United States is wherever you do, whenever you get involved in bribery, a scandal, whether it's outside the country, you will answer to it when you come back. So I don't think they will risk that. You only get freedom of speech if you have power and money. If you're poor, don't dream about it. Again, I think that's way too far. Ray Allen, if I may say that, I think you're allowed to speak your mind. And if people wanted yesterday, they could. They have enough numbers to go against the request not to show balance and show it anyway. And again, I forgot to say something about CFC. For him, great brother and a friend. He has a good channel, and I want you, if you can, please go check it out and subscribe if you haven't. Believe me, you will like it. Banners have to be presented in advance. A few weeks ago, one with a guy named who had just passed away. Okay, in advance, you say, okay, that makes sense now. imagine a Chelsea fans protest like that guy in Everton match, tie himself up in a goalpost. I don't want to see such. I think that's overkill for me. I don't know. Then I want to read something. There's still three other beaters. It's not a favor in anyone. You could argue that, but we're just concerned, and we have every reason to be concerned. And let me see this comment here from Deals. He says all of our fans should care about its future that we're talking about. And okay, Stav here. I saw Stav roasting me a bit. That's fine. Football for regular match going is finds is escapism from daily life. It's a total process from going out of your door to going back hours later. Let me see if something I may email my MP. Okay, over this weekend and don't want another Glazer. Okay, if you could do that, I hope he helps. Let me
Coach,
see.
can I
Sorry,
say
I'll come.
this, please?
Yes, go ahead.
If I may. People are talking about banners and that. I'll go back and say again, a tender process is in process among bidders. How would it look if the club in question has permitted its fans to show a bias against a particular bidder? It's unethical. So on those grounds alone, I can understand why the club would say no banners. They would say no banners to anybody showing banners for Bowley. They would say no banners to anybody showing banners for the Broughton group. It is influencing the process and it could be up for contention. So this is what I'm saying. Let's just use our heads. We're getting too emotional. These guys may not even get the club. But I'm telling you what, the more we are resisting this, the more they are reinforcing themselves to put forward a cast iron case to get the club. Because if they have all these strong members of the consortium, we have very little grounds to come against them. And they may come in and do very well by the club. So I think the issue is we've made our point about what this club is about. We need to step back a bit, hold our nerve, and see how it pans out, in my opinion.
A point made. Nick, I'll come back to you before I continue reading. That's I think Just Viola has some message for Bobby in the chat, but we'll come back to that. Nick, go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, look, I'm completely opposite. Bobby, I know I admire you. You talk very good sense. But I have to disagree with what you just said. Because we have to. If we don't fight for our rights, then what we're going to be? We're protesting because we don't want these three kids, what they stand for, not just for their races, but, for everything. What they did with their clubs, how they, did what they did to their employees, all things like that as well. And that's, Chelsea. When I spoke to the steward yesterday, I said to him, why? He goes to me, because we were instructed by the club, by our higher ranking, probably the security head or whatever, not to allow banners. Well, the thing is, most of the crowd didn't have any banners with them. They just, that's what I'm trying to say. The shared den, the big name with a big backing in the shed, thousands of them, they didn't, show up outside or inside the ground. Why were they going on Twitter saying, let's vote against the Ricketts, do this against the Ricketts, hashtag no to the Ricketts. Everyone's been doing that. But, it comes to the day, and they don't turn up. I'm really pissed off about it. Look,
Nick, there will always be.
Let me finish. I know I'm pissed off because like I said, it hasn't gone. The racist hasn't gone from this club. It just reminded me he has. I thought he did, like you. It hasn't. And if more than anything, because of this Ricky story, there's more racist fans now against other fans. Because look, it wouldn't have been just 200 of us, and all these thousands going into the ground and ignoring. They don't want to show, a shout or like we did. Well, if you ain't gonna do that, sing in the crowd. In the crowd, you don't even sing to back your team. You know, not once did we hear Roman Abramovich in the crowd. We heard it outside. Not once. I was disgusted by it. You know, it's the first time I've gone to Chelsea and I hate my own fans. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. Go ahead, Bobby.
I'll say I hear you. I fully understand. I don't know Nick personally, but I can see him. He's Chelsea through and through. He's got blue in his veins. But the thing here is that there's two things. There will always be that element of apathy to anything by some groups. Some people will always give lip service to any kind of process than actually get involved in the process until it directly impacts them and they have a personal emotion towards it before they come out. Another thing there is that the club, I've been trying to sort of gently say this, but the club, I think, is right to say don't hold up banners. It's not that the club does not agree with any emotion against racism, but where does it end? Today, banners on one side for the Ricketts. Tomorrow, banners on the other side for Bowley. The next day, banners on the other side for Broughton, and it becomes a circus and a total violation to the bidding process. So they were right to keep a lid on it, especially now when nobody has been appointed to as the preferred bidder for ownership, and the bidding process has not stopped. So that perhaps has some legal grounds. As far as the sentiments of the fan base, this is just society. Society hasn't gotten over racial sentiments. It's still something in the making. Football is just a cross section of society. There's no point saying, oh, Chelsea fans are racist, and society has that problem. And, we tend to want to believe that it's not happening. It is happening. But are we going the right way to deal with it? I think we are. To give you an example as to how society has that problem, you go and watch the England games and what happens to black players, both on the continent and even in some parts of, you don't even have to go to watch the England game, some other parts of the country. And then you look at how FIFA gives out penalties for these violations, little slaps on the wrists to these countries that do these things. It is a problem. There's no shadow of a doubt about that. It's not unique to Chelsea. But are we going in the right way to solve it? Yes, we are, most definitely. Because just as I think it was Tom that said, one thing you will notice is that the people that are coming out more vocal against this are a younger group. So if it's not going to happen with the older generation, it will certainly happen with the younger generation.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Bobby. This is the picture we have on the screen, and this is, I think, it's Daily Mail. The guidance, so to speak. The guidance, so to speak. We have Nick Blue here with his cell phone. He was showing us live images yesterday from the stadium. And Nick, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for you. We had around 200 plus, I think 220 something viewers at the same time. And the total view, I think it's almost, is it 5,000 already? Or I think it's around 5,000 or so, or 4,000 or so, I'm not sure. But Nick, again, thank you. You made it worthwhile, and again, we appreciate you that live close to the Stamford Bridge that went, and I think I can see Matisse. I can also see Unistock's football here. I think that's brilliant to see. You did us all proud. Again, at least they will hear our voice. Bobby, I'll come back to you. I know you see the comment on the screen as Just Viola Rich asking you a question. It says, but Bobby, Pete Ricketts' comments are recent, not just a question, but he's referring to you. I think maybe she's seeing your comments as if though what the Ricketts says, their behavior are all in the past. In the past, why not us move on? So she's saying this to let you know some of the stuff they did are of recent.
Yeah, actually, I've suddenly noticed a lot of the panel have run away. Run away. You're frightening your own panel, Coach. Look.
No, I think Seed is busy,
Bobby,
and
it's me.
Tobago is
It's
also
me.
busy.
I think they're
Right,
scared with my,
okay.
very loud voice.
I don't know. No. You're all good, Nick. I love you, mate. I love you.
Yeah.
I really do.
You know
Listen.
where we come from. I know where you come from, and we both come from. We come from the past, and we know so much about this club and the fans and everything.
Absolutely.
But that's why I got so upset yesterday. It's all right, Coach, say no, you're a hero. You done great for us. For me, I don't feel good. I was sick last night because of because I expected different from the majority, from our fans. Not walking past and getting into the ground and not ignoring us, and we're begging them to come and join us. That's what I didn't like at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the big channels, the Sheridan, Chelsea, Chelsea fan channel, the real supposed to be the leading these things. They disappeared. That's what got me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apart from we had Eunice, we had Mo from Blue Lounge, we had Jem from GNA, and Matisse. They were the only ones joining us and doing really well. I'm very proud of them, really proud. But the rest, I don't want to know them.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger channels may be subject to, shall I say, for want of a better word, gagging orders because of the process in place. The fact that a tender is in process, if you are a recognized Chelsea channel, you're not really in a position to make too much comment at the moment. But I get you. I know I get your feeling. I'm just trying to answer this Just Viola question.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I don't know this comment she's alluding to, how recent it was. Even if it was yesterday, I doubt if it was yesterday, because they wouldn't be that stupid. But if it was a year ago, is that what she's saying?
Yeah, no, she's saying that was just a year ago.
Yeah, a
But
year
Bobby,
ago.
Pete Ricketts, that's one of the brothers.
I don't know what he said. I don't know the context in which he said it.
Mm-hmm.
But my position is still the same. One, I personally don't believe they will get the go ahead unless they really, really up their bid and strengthen themselves.
You said, Bobby,
That's
you've
what.
said that like 3 times now. Does it really? Is it the highest bidder becomes the new owner, or I think
No,
it's not a matter of how much they bid. Is that the case really?
the case is the strongest bid. If you have a cast iron consortium that is financially strong, has concrete plans for the club, and is ready to drop $1 billion on the table immediately to support the club, and is signed up to the club's, for want of a better word, code of conduct and beliefs and practices, what grounds do you have not to give them a fighting chance? You can't prove them as such not to do that until they violate that. So I don't know. The stronger they make their bid, the more of a chance they have of success. And I have to say, realistically, the the inclusion of this guy within the consortium that owns the Cleveland
Cavaliers.
Cavaliers, I
Mhm.
think
That
is
changes a
quite
whole lot of stuff, right?
yeah, I think it's quite significant. It can't be ignored because, I mean, especially if they're putting in, you see, the investment, the Ricketts people themselves are not the main investors. And where the investment matters is that the more investment you make, the larger and more say you will want to have. And you're not going to invest your hard cash into something and give it and allow people that are going to violate or cause problems for
Mhm.
your investment. So, you know, there's a bigger picture here. It's like this thing and banners. You know, I've tried to make the point, and hopefully it's a sensible point, that there is a tendering in process. You can't have people showing banners about one part of the tender. Where does it end? Then banners will be everywhere about all the tendering. And that's a violation of the process. You know, people
Mhm.
talk about the restrictions of disabled access. Well, I don't know what health and safety laws are like in America, but in Britain, they are very, very strong, especially in public places. And you cannot do that. You would not be allowed by law. So, what did he say a year ago? You know, it's all very well. You know, we've had people say, oh, but they said something about Asians and black people. Okay. Sort of what exactly? When? In what context? You know, oh, he said something a year ago. Okay. What? In what context? You know, these are the things that I look at. And I'm sure the those that are looking at the specifications for the ownership of the club will be looking at as well. When you put in a tender, you have specifications. The specifications is then justified and judged upon. And if you don't meet the full spectrum of the spec, or you don't meet the same level as other bidders, you drop out eventually. So I don't know. I'm still saying, you know, let's not react. Let's not get too reactive. You know,
Yeah. Go ahead.
sometimes we could be looking at them and thinking of them in isolation, whereas they're not really what it's all about. They might be a member of a consortium, but they may not be the real influence in the consortium. Look at Todd Bowley's consortium. I hear one of them is a Spurs fan. How are you going to justify that?
Mhm.
Martin Broughton, he once owned Liverpool, although he's a Chelsea fan. So, you know, you've got to look at it objectively.
Yeah. I want to say a big up to Stav, who's been in the chat, even though he's not really feeling well. He has a sore throat. I hope he gets better. I miss you on the panel. But good thing to see that you're there providing some input there. So I'm going to go through the comments again, and I'll come back to you, Bobby, later. Hopefully, you'll still be here. Even so, if many people emailed their MPs, it would be brought up in Parliament if you have the right MP. LSC, let me start with you with this comment, and then I think I'll talk to Bobby and also and Nick later. Will that make emailing the MPs? Would that, you know, be of any use at all?
Emailing the MPs.
Yeah,
Emailing the MPs.
if there is a huge number of emails to local MPs, especially within the Chelsea area, within
Uh
the borough of Kensington,
huh.
it would have some impact because it can't go unnoticed. Trouble is, I don't think there will be. And the trouble is, once it is put there, it will be open to further business scrutiny. And the question will be asked, were there terms of reference in order to take over ownership of this club? Are they prepared to sign up to it? And if
Mhm.
the answer is yes, how can you penalize somebody on feelings? and accusations.
Yeah, your thoughts. Go ahead, Bobby. Sorry, I didn't know you were still talking.
Yeah, I was just saying, you see what I'm saying? It becomes a bit more difficult. And besides, they may not even win the bid. This is another thing. So the MPs themselves are hamstrung. It's not like when, one of them in particular came after Roman for clearly what was more personal reasons than anything else. Roman was already there to be got at. These guys aren't there yet. So what are we doing? Preventing people that have gotten into a tender. There are legal lines here. There are moral lines. There are ethical lines here.
Yeah, there are. I mean, the slightest miscalculation could become a serious mishap. It happens every day, especially when it comes to something of such magnitude. With the whole world is watching, and like we've talked about. I think it was LSG that said the other day, the rank group, the world, is watching them, and if they make any mistake of being corrupt, then that will ruin their business, their reputation as a business entity. And let's see, coming to you, what your input on the comment on the screen, which says, even if many people emailed their MP, it would be brought up in the parliament if you have the right MP.
Yeah, that is
And then
one
first,
issue.
sorry, I want to say thank you to you and Nick also for being part of those that organized the gathering at Stamford Bridge. It was peaceful. Although there's still argument how that affected the performance of the players, but we'll talk about that later when we discuss strictly the protest. And I want to say thank you again. It's not easy. And also from wherever you're watching, if you haven't, please do make sure to click on the like button. It is free. But if anybody asks you to pay, let them know I've already paid for you. It will take you just a second. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We hit the 1,000 milestone, I think 3 days ago. And yesterday we added about 100 new subscribers. Now we're at 1,120 subscribers and growing. We hope to reach 2,000 as soon as possible. I know we can do that even before the middle of the month. So you go ahead, LSC.
Yeah, people can email as much as they want, any way they want to try and help the club, but I don't really think it's going to make any difference or spark any debate, like the MP for, that particular area. I've called that office several times since the sanctions began, and nothing reasonable has come out of it. So I've lost interest in that. I think if we want them to debate it, like I said before, we'll need one of these big accounts to create a petition on parliament.gov, there are petitions, because if it gets to 10,000, then the government will respond. So the one when we highlighted the change.org the other day.
So you're saying the moment that you have 10,000 signature in place, the government, they are obliged to respond, no matter the matter.
Yeah. That's how it works. Okay. Because I signed up to one during the Fauci issues in the last 3 years now. So I signed up to one on the parliament petitions, and it was discussed. They had a debate in parliament, over it. So that was what, that's the confidence I have in the system. It's not as if I'm just hearing it. So it was discussed, even though the discussion, was still a bit one-sided because they already made up their mind on what they want to do, So that's for that, So people can email them and do what they feel will help, That's for that. And as for the yesterday issue, the turnout yesterday, I'm absolutely disgusted and disappointed, in what has happened. So now I know
But
that.
still, if you don't mind, but still, you guys did something. At least something was done.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that, but the way people, the way people felt relaxed about the situation, not understanding the future ramifications of what this might, what this might mean to the club, in terms of the perception of how our club is. People like to say, Chelsea have a racist past and all of that, which I don't necessarily agree that is peculiar to Chelsea, because in the late 90s, I worked at the London clubs, Arsenal and Tottenham.
Uh-huh.
I worked with an agency, as a steward. I work in their kitchen, and I know how I was racially abused. Not hearsay, not mean words or anything like that. This was in the late 90s. So it happens. This thing happened. As a Chelsea fan, I was abused at West Ham. Yeah, not this new West. West Ham went in our old ground. So racism is everywhere. It's definitely what is happening in society at that
Yeah,
particular
as
time.
Bobby would say, racism is an institution, whether we like it or
Yeah,
not. Go
yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
brother.
So we must not come up with say, was Chelsea, it's peculiar to Chelsea, or the people that didn't turn out are probably racist or whatever. I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to say probably they are not paying serious attention to what's been happening, or maybe they've been numb to it, to
Mm-hmm.
accept, possibly accept the dictates of whatever the authority says, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Protest is something that is supposed to happen, protest, banner display is something that's supposed to happen arbitrarily, on the basis of a random choice or on a personal whim, rather than something that is planned systematically, So that's why when, they say we are not allowed to show the banners and all of that, we understand that there might be an impact in favoritism, of other bits against one, or bias against one, but the reason, there's a righteous indignation involved with Chelsea fans. I don't want this to happen. For me, my motivation was I just don't want my club to be perceived as a racist club, because that's what the headline is going to be. That's what the headline is going to be. Right now, the media is a bit silent about it, but the moment it falls through, all they are going to keep saying on the headline is, racist family acquire Chelsea. Racist family, that's what they're going to say. And then they will not start digging into what happened in the past. So that's the reason, we are protesting. And the Ricketts family, they do not possess a divine right to own Chelsea Football Club. And what has happened, the machinations behind the scene that have occurred during this process involving Bruce Buck, Paul Canove, and the Chelsea Supporter Trust, it's telling us that there's something going on, like they want to engineer this situation for the Ricketts. So that's what got me upset about the whole situation. So
Yeah.
if every other party, were given the opportunity to meet with the fans as well, meet with the CST, then I won't have a problem with it. So give every single one of them equal opportunity. That's the reason why the other parties came out, was it a week ago now, to say clearly, just tell us the bid is already for the Ricketts, instead of allowing us to waste our time and effort, in these pursuits. So that's what I have to say. And the people in there, because I tried, they came in for the game. They went and sat in the pub, waiting in there instead of joining the protest. That as soon as the gates were open, they went straight to the game. They didn't care about us. They didn't care about nothing. I see this is not going to affect us. So that's where my disappointment is. It's really, really sad the way the situation is at this moment.
Again, I think we should watch the language we use, because already the monetization for this particular video has been tagged as limited, probably because of some comments in the chat or something. So please, we should be very, very careful with the comments we use here. But that's fine. I think we will be all right. Now I know I've asked what's his name? Nick has expressed his disgust on the turnout and how those that were present, how they behaved. I'm going to come back to you, Bobby. What do you think about the low turnout?
I think the low turnout is symptomatic of Chelsea fans not really knowing where to place their emotions. I don't think they are against the no to the Ricketts statement. I think a lot of them are not convinced that the Ricketts are as overtly racist as they are being labeled. And I think a lot of them are in a sort of wait and see situation. Just as the guy that spoke earlier said, they don't have a divine right to buy Chelsea Football Club. And as such, they will go through the process as everybody else. Now, I fully take on board this thing that if they do get the club, the media are going to use it against the club. I can see that. That's just what they do, especially where Chelsea is concerned. But it hasn't happened yet. Is it going to happen? Well, with one or two extra efforts being brought about by, I believe, some of the attention that's been put on them, it's possible. You know, there's a saying, often what you fear the most is what comes to you. You know, that's why I say the point has been made. I'm not sure it is worth more, underline it more. The club can't comment because there is a tender process in process. So they can't say anything about it if you know anything about tendering laws. Writing to MPs, okay, but saying what exactly? Okay, you don't want the Ricketts. Okay, if it's up to 10,000, yeah, they'll talk about it, but what do you really want them to talk about? What, stop the tender? Pass a law, a special law that they can't own the club? I don't know. It's a difficult situation. I just don't know how that message can hold much water other than what has been done already.
Bobby, can I just add something? Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You say we done what we done. We should stop and let's see what happens. But I don't think we've done really enough yet. We have to make sure these Ricketts don't come in, because if we stop everything and they take over the club, what's going to happen to our club in 4 or 5 years' time? They're going to come and spend money in the beginning. It's happened before, and after we're going to be in the middle table or struggling for relegation again. I don't trust these people. We should carry on and not. We should have a proper protest. This was nothing yesterday. The turnout was rubbish. The thing is, the fans do know what's going on. They know about the Ricketts. But a lot of them are, they don't care because they're loaded with money. They probably want the Ricketts to be the owners. A lot of them. That's what it felt like yesterday in the ground. In the ground, it felt like that. I didn't see hardly anyone saying, words against them in the crowd. No one. So they couldn't care less. Like LSD said, they were walking past and they didn't care. Yeah, they don't care because they don't care who the owners are going to be. But the only good thing we have is Roman Abramovich. He's going to tell the board who he wants. I don't believe Roman is going to let them take it. Like you said, I'm not 100%. He ain't going to be them. But like for the little percentage you said they are, that's going to backfire on everything. And then the fans will, we should have gone and protest. It's going to be too late. No, it's going to be too late.
Well,
Yeah.
I just think I hear you, Nick, and
One
I
second,
think
Bobby. Can you respond to him? And when you're done, can you respond to the comment on the screen? And I'll be back in a bit, please.
okay, it's primitive method that Bobby is talking about. New age, who does not function like you. Anyway, I hear you, Nick. I mean, I know what you're saying, and I just feel, what can you do to influence people? There's not a lot, but often what happens is that, big changes are made by a few people, and the few people being persistent with what they believe to be just and true. Ultimately, in this case, because it's not happening at the moment, it's very difficult to galvanize the support. Do you know what I mean? I mean, people aren't yet tweaked to it because it hasn't
I
happened.
know, yeah,
And
I
the
understand. I
worst thing
understand what you're
about it
saying. But
is
the
that
only thing,
prevention
what
is
I'm
better
worried
than
about,
cure.
I'm worried about say they do win. And then what's going to happen after that? That's what I'm worried about. That's why
Exactly.
I want to carry on protesting. That's what I think. And, I don't know. It's just, if we stop everything, we stop probably, going against them, they have more chance to win. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, as I've said, prevention of anything is better than cure. But the thing about this is that it's an unknown. Nobody really knows how they will treat the club until they get the club, if they get the club. And that's the uniqueness of this situation. Coach, I can't fully read what's written there.
Okay, let me
I've got
let me read it for you. And it looks like the comment isn't complete because probably the size it was cut off. It says it's a primitive method that Bobby is talking about. New age world does not function like that. You won't get much time once everything is decided and starts to go downhill. What about morality? When a romance something, I'm not sure what that part, but I think the first part is talking about once we let it happen, if we don't speak up, if they become the new owners, and still things start to go downhill, there's only much we can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, we are limited as fans. What can we do? We're doing what we can do,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not on the decision making board. We're not of those that are going to appoint the new owner.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. We can only do so much, and probably can't do any more until if and when they assume ownership. But it's still an almighty if. I'm not sure, having even picked up on this sentiment, that those involved in the final selection will allow this to go through. I'm really, I'm not convinced at all. I'm not convinced it's going to happen.
Let's see your thoughts. What that Bobby is he's said it like a million times, and for me, to some a certain measure, I still believe it will not happen. But after Bruce Buck's behavior, I really do not trust the process, and I'm concerned anything can happen. And the fact that they're still part of the process, technically they cannot emerge as a new owners of Chelsea Football Club. But I want to get your thoughts on Bobby's seemed certain. It seems very certain that it's not going to happen. Your thoughts, LSG?
If the bid is allowed to go through organically, then I don't think they will get it. But if there is some engineering going on behind the scene, then it's very possible because we're seeing it now. We're seeing how the effort they're trying to make sure our voices are not heard or our voices and opinion are being limited. So we have every cause to be
Now,
worried.
if you say efforts being made so that our voices are not heard, because it is we still, I have to phrase it that way, otherwise I'll sound like, I'm deferring. But saying that they're trying to make sure our voices are not heard, how have they, in what way have they done that? if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
with the banner situation,
Okay, can
not
you
just
okay, walk us through how what happened? Because I'm reading, I'll come back to you here. Well, I'm looking for something from Stav where he says something about the banner. Where's that message here? I'm not sure I can find it again, but go ahead, let us know how it happened.
yeah, I think I wasn't in the stadium, all right, so I didn't have tickets, but
Mm-hmm.
Nick had tickets, so he went in. So I just went to one of those hotels and watched the game. So basically, with the first of all, the shed is supposed to come out with they were supposed to come out with a massive banner, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was a betrayal on their part. I don't care what
Mm-hmm.
excuse they are going to put on Twitter or anything, all right? Because they've done this before. Okay, they've shown that they are willing to extend a broader angle of accommodation towards the Ricketts, in one of their previous statements. So whatever comment statement they come up with now, I do not buy it. you
Mm-hmm.
know. Then Matisse came up with shout out to Matisse, for his efforts yesterday. Shout out to Eunice. Shout out to Mo.
And shout
So
out to you too.
yeah, man. I'm not that important, bro. So anyway, basically, the banners, the little banners he brought out were supposed to go in the stadium. So not being allowed to show that, you know. I don't see this happening in an Italian club or Italian food. I don't see this happening. I think it's time we resurrect whatever ultra form of fans, because we have to let them know that they cannot control our speech. Once we are in that stadium, they cannot control our speech. That should be their defense. If the Ricketts are not happy that the fans are chanting or are against their bid, the club can have a defense to say, we do not have control over what they say or what they sing. We do not. But the moment we allow the club to dictate what kind of banners is allowed in the stadium,
Mm-hmm.
if the,
Mm-hmm.
as long as the banner is not, a racist banner or a banner that is, threatening to kill people, a xenophobic banner or anything like that, any
Mm-hmm.
banner that allow us to express our frustration about, because we're in a peculiar situation right now. This is not ordinary situation. What is happening to us now, we can never believe, can ever happen to a club, especially an English football club,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So this is it. And I
Yeah,
think people
it
have
was
been
still, it was still, it was still. Let me come in, and you can carry on 1 minute before I forget. The thing is, look, I had my banner, and I showed it. The stewards were telling me, "No, don't put it up. Don't. You're not allowed." I'm going to take no notice, and I'm holding it up. It's in the picture. You can see it. For half an hour more, I was holding it. Why did the others who had them banners not show them? It's not
you
because
say
of it didn't stop Chelsea supporters doing anything else before. They're not scared. They because they don't care if the Ricketts take over. That's the main reason.
this is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
There's a
exactly.
kind of
I was
there's
just so frustrated in the ground. I felt like, oh God, what's these
what
people? Look at these fans. What are they doing? They're doing nothing. Not even singing for the team. It was a really bad experience to be there yesterday. Very bad.
Yeah, so what I've noticed, it cuts across society. The last 3 years, we've seen, a systematic, erosion of our civil liberties and the way people comply. As long as there is a reason for it, as long as the government can give a reason, no matter how dodgy it is, so they can enforce it. I think that has affected our psyche as a collective, you know. So the people in there that were not singing or refused because they heard the instruction, okay, the instruction has been passed down. Don't show the banner. So subconsciously, they passively accept or comply, to whatever the dictates of the authority is for the day. This is the problem. That mentality is what the problem is. So the fans, I believe, should be allowed to express themselves. If the Ricketts want to go to court to say, the process was not fair, because of XYZ, then let them explain themselves in court and say, oh, my dad, and tell the world their dad did not make a racist comment, because we clearly have the evidence. And that is going to be thrown in our face every single day if they succeed.
Yeah.
That's just my fear.
Yeah. I think your fear, you have grounds for that. I don't blame you. I wanted to ask Bobby. I think I've asked you, Bobby. Did I ask you why you think the turnout, or what led to a low turnout for the protest? I don't know if I've asked you that question.
Yes, you did, and I'll say, I mean, quite clearly, if something has a low turnout or a low response, even to those people that were actually physically there, who,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are multiple reasons. The people physically there were probably concerned about their privileges,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak, to even attend the game, because that was removed, and they probably didn't want to do anything else to further jeopardize that.
Mm-hmm.
And an uncertainty as to whether to underline the demonstration or not. I think in this instance, Chelsea fans are kind of caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. They don't know how to respond. If they
Mm-hmm.
could, if they were free to respond, they would respond for so many reasons over the situation we're in. But they don't
Mm-hmm.
feel free to respond. And I think that's why there's some restraint shown in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, Bobby, if you're still there, I want to start with you immediately on this one, and then that is in combination with the comment on the screen that says it is a very small minority that wants Ricketts out. Now, this is a poll that I had on my community tab, which reads, "Who would you like to become the new owner of Chelsea Football Club?" And 89% of the Chelsea fans, but I wish it's not up to us really. We've already established that, and 89% says Todd Bowley led consortium. Martin Broughton led consortium got just 3%. Ricketts family and Ken Griffin consortium got just 5% at least, but they're second. And Stephen Pagliuca got 3%. So, Bobby, looking at this comment on the screen that says it's a very small minority that wants the Ricketts out, does that make sense to you, or do you think something isn't quite right? Even the one on the that I did a poll I had on Twitter, the Todd Bowley group was the majority actually.
I think Todd. Well, I'm just this doesn't necessarily reflect my feelings about this, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying as truthfully as I see it as possible, with the possibility that I could be wrong. But all I'm just saying is that it seems to me, on the face of it, that the people that are very, very emotionally invested in the whole Ricketts thing are either Chelsea fans of the Muslim faith or
Mm-hmm.
close to the Muslim faith. The
Mm-hmm.
rest of the fans are, I wouldn't say they're apathetic, but they don't support them because they don't support things that are not socially right or acceptable,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not as passionate about it because they live with all this every day and it doesn't hit them as hard as those from that faith. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
know that others are saying that, well, they've said this about Asians, they've said this about Black people. The truth of the matter is that the issue is what they've said about the Islamic faith. That's the main issue of this. and it doesn't seem to have that much pressure clout as if it was. Well, let me tell you this: if Chelsea fans felt free today without there being a conflict with the actual war taking place in Ukraine, if they felt free to demonstrate against the sanctions on Roman, my goodness me, you will see a turnout because they are all emotionally affected by it. And the only thing holding them back is because of the links to the war and the suffering of people. That's why. Now, this aspect of it, yes, I don't believe Chelsea fans are not in support of it, but I don't think many of them are as strongly against it as some. And that's why you had that sort of turnout yesterday.
Yeah, and staff here, thank you very much. And staff here says, I spent 6 years of work as a steward. Police and local authorities have a say in banners, etc. Even size limits exist. Hence, why you have to present them in advance. So, okay, this is in response with something somebody in the chat that says banners has to be presented in advance. Okay, now I get it. Can somebody please, if you're a mod, please ban this Ricketts in Bruce Buck in guy Arsenal who's trolling us. Ban him permanently. I will try to do that myself if I get a chance. Don't compare UK with Italy. Okay, I am not a favor in any bidder, but anyone but the Ricketts. Yeah, I think most of us can say that. So I wanted to, ask you this, LSC. You saw the comment I had on the screen, which says, where's it again? Let me find it. Only a few minority. I think it's a very small minority. I think it's this one here. It's a very small minority that want Ricketts out, and then you see this poll here. What are your thoughts? And even the one, the statement from the Chelsea Supporters Trust that says 77% or so of their members don't, are not convinced by, I say I can rightly phrase it this way, not convinced by the Ricketts. Your thoughts, LSG?
Yeah, they can say what they want now. Because if they see the numbers are turned out, so they cannot say, oh, yeah, that's a reflection of, the Chelsea support base. But that's not true. Majority of fans don't want them, but they are just numb to the establishments, control measures. So now they know that, people, they were just allowed to take off their face covering recently, isn't it? Government can tell you have a disease and you just have to accept you have a disease. That's the world we live in right now, and it's affecting our game, is affecting everything. So I'm seeing it from a different angle. So they can say what they want, but I don't think it's a minority. It's just that we need enough time to prepare. I think this one happened within 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was within 2 days, actually. So we need time to prepare. The bigger channels have to channel it. Bobby was saying something about the bigger channels not being allowed, or if there can be a gag order against them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how that can happen, but I would like to be educated more on that aspect. If there is not, because Eunice was there, Eunice, one of the OGs, Matisse has a pretty big following, so I don't really see how that can happen unless they've been engineered to do that, or if there's if part of the tendering law, suggests that XYZ cannot be allowed to happen for the sale of a football club. So tendering law can vary when it comes to sport activities where, the opinion and passion of fans is what drives the club, the success of the club. So I think that should be taken into consideration. The social capital of the club. How the club is going to be perceived in the long run. You know. So I see the Ricketts are trying to double down, bringing in new investors and all of that. As far as I'm
Yes,
concerned,
I wanted to ask you. I think I've asked Bobby that, but I think there's something else I want to ask Bobby in a bit. I've asked Bobby that. Your thoughts? Do you think it's? Do you think it's a distraction? And are you? How well are you acquainted with the Rock Entertainment Group and
not not
their
not not
net
not
worth and everything?
not very well, not very well.
But do you think
So
it's a distraction?
yeah, I don't think it's a. Yeah, it could be because of the timing. It could be. You never know what is in their minds. But in terms of them being an actual investor, these
Uh-huh.
people, with what I've learned, of them for the past few weeks, I can genuinely tell you that these guys are going to be placeholders just to show. Just like some people trying to process a document and then they'll say, okay, you need to have XYZ amounts in your account for it to
Mm-hmm.
go through, and then someone transfer the money, okay, they show the government. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
see going on here. These are Tom Ricketts openly came out and said, that when they were people journalists they were questioning is their spending on the corps, why are they selling their best players and all of that. The guy was basically saying, you know what, we are one of the top 10 spenders in the league. We've done the best we could, basically. So resigned, like he doesn't even care. Like they are just barely hanging on. It's like a club, fighting for relegation. That was the mentality. you know. And the idea that the father will not be involved, that's not going to be the case. We are going to see these four people, yeah? We're going to see them like that, yeah, coming around in circles. You see them with the father. They are going to all be involved in the club, and that will be the face. If the political climate we are in right now, yeah, isn't the one that doesn't tolerate, things like this, or that tolerates things like this, then I don't have problem
Mm-hmm.
with the Ricketts. You understand? Apart from their sporting abilities, and their track record. But because of the climate we are in right now, and I think they are even right wing, and this time around, right wing is not even allowed. The policies are not even allowed to be discussed, even though they might be the best way to go forward, you know, even though they might be the best way. So everything has to go woke. If you're a business owner, you have to put a BLM sign, at your door or your Instagram post. Otherwise, you are a racist or whatever. That's the world we live in right now. That's my only worry. So they being associated with Chelsea Football Club, a lot of people will zone out. You know, a lot of people will zone out. I might even zone out from football, watching football. Just having these people be talking about, because no matter what they are going to do, no matter their attempt, if they like, they can give free tickets to all black supporters. They can give free tickets. They can celebrate all the Muslim festivities, whatever. It doesn't matter. People are just gonna say, you know what, they are doing too much. They are cloud chasing. They are doing too much. No matter what they do. That's why it's better to have someone without this baggage. You know, it's not that it really matters. They should only be judged on their sporting abilities. But when it comes to corporate social responsibilities to the communities, that's where this issue comes up. So that's where my concern is.
Yeah,
Instead of just allowing them to go through. And I believe,
yeah,
like Nick was saying, there should be another round of protests, and they should be properly planned. Yeah, I'm already looking at what's it called, the eBay for some loudspeakers or some stuff like that. And we need something. We need to keep it going. If they are nominated to the next round, which is like 11th or something, if they are still in the conversation, then we know they are definitely going to be the new owner. Honestly, if they make it to the next round, we know they are going to be the new owner. Then we do one more protest.
yeah. Bobby, I'm going to come to you. we have to be objective here. And again, I think we've talked about this before, but because it hasn't gone away, I think it's important that we keep talking about it. The fact that they have a chance, they're still part of the process. They're in the final phase. How much of a problem, really, Bobby? I know you're a good speaker. You're an eloquent speaker at that, and you always like to find a balance. And you have that is a very powerful, persuasive approach in terms of speaking to convince people to think otherwise and to be objective, if I'm allowed to phrase it that way. But how much of a problem? I know you know our past very well. How much of a problem would they cause Chelsea Football Club from a PR perspective, from sponsors, distancing themselves from us and all that? How much of a problem do you think they will cause us? Because there's no hiding from it if ever it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I know that next Monday or the Monday after the 11th is the deadline for this second sort of bidding process, or bidders to up their bids or expand their bid. So
Uh,
what they're doing now is not illegal by the addition of the owner of the Cavaliers. It's part of a bidding expansion.
mhm,
How much of a concern is it if they progress beyond that point? Well, how much of a concern is it now? Everybody has made their point quite strongly and quite reasonably based on their past
mhm,
and their current ownership record. And these are very strong, strong points. Now, if they continue to progress, then the need to protest on those grounds will continue to progress. Why I'm a little bit, how do I put this? I'm a little bit on the sort of wait and see side of things,
mhm,
is that I've watched and supported Chelsea Football Club for decades. We've gone through a lot. The fans have been the people that have sustained that club. Up until the point Ken Bates came in and bought the club for £1
mhm,
in the 80s. We've been through a lot. And it's always been the fans that stand in the gap. Now, will Chelsea fans stand idle while somebody who is likely to run the club into the ground takes over? I don't think so. And so your protest, you might find, may start to get more support should they get into the next round. And it becomes more apparent that they are likely to be owners, especially if they cannot show evidence that they will be progressive owners. So I mean, why I'm not worried is that, the fact that there isn't that huge impact or resistance happening now doesn't mean to say that closer to down the line, if it becomes that they are serious contenders with somebody else, that the protest will not gather pace. That's just how I see it. I mean, we need to see, nobody really knows what their um, proposals are. Nobody. We have people in the race that the consortium is secret. It's unknown, except to the club board, and eventually it will become known to the supporters trust before it gets known to the fans. That's the Martin Broughton group. So
mhm,
who knows what that's about and who's in that? Um, So, we took, people are focused on, oh, there could be some issue in terms of corruption in relation to the Ricketts. Well, the same, I guess, could be said with that bid, since it's all being done behind closed doors. So, as I say, let's not be too reactive yet. let's just respond to developments. I'm not saying what has happened so far is wrong. It's right. I think fans were right to raise their concerns, and to raise their concerns as peacefully and as law-abiding as is possible. And they've done that now. So let's see what happens in the next step.
Yeah, yeah, great point, right? And thank you for taking some time to answer that. And Friday Samuel asked, the Ricketts family racist. Here's the thing: I'm not going to generalize here. There's a comment by a pastor who discussed a video actually we shared on this show the other day. One of the family members referred to black people as the problem with you people. In the United States, that's racism. It's perceived as racism when you use that term. What do you mean, you people? Again, there are other instances that, again, I've looked beyond actually racism, like Bobby talked about before. Bobby's main concern is the way they run their club, the way they treat their employees, and all the factors that's not even racism. And Bobby also did mention, actually, it's just that racism is the most highlighted of all the things. And I think people probably are seeing it in a way that it covers even Islamophobia and another behavior that they've exhibited in the past. Again, I'm not generalizing here. I'm just
Coach,
saying from what I've learned. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add to that statement? Because, I think I've heard this, the problem with you people. I think a lot of us, even in our own families, if we're honest, have people who are of a certain generation. And in the United States, I mean, how long ago was it really in certain parts of the states that segregation was not an issue? It's been an issue up until about the 70s, if not even up until the 80s. So there are people of a certain generation where their upbringing is different. You were brought up to look at people differently. Oh, we're white people, we go over there. Oh, they're black people, they go over there. Now, this is why I said earlier that racism is not, in my opinion, a natural instinct. It's not a natural instinct that people default to. It's a learned behavior. And a lot of the things you hear from some of these, particularly the older generation.
And that brings me, can I ask you this question quickly?
Yeah.
Bobby, yeah. I hope I don't make it, I hope I don't cause you to lose your thoughts. No. The fact that it's something that is learned, it's not something that people perpetrate instinctively. It's something that is learned, and over time it becomes part of the person's behavior. If that's the case, if one of the Ricketts exhibits a racist behavior, isn't that reflective of how they, how they're brought up in their family, how they're trained in their family, how they speak in their family, and how their family see black people?
It's not necessarily, Coach. I'll give another example. I know someone, in fact, there are many people that have come from a white background, and a member of their family has married or integrated with somebody of another race. And initially, before that happened, they've never had that exposure. And that exposure led them to a different way of thinking. You can unlearn learned behavior. I know so many people that now have integrated family members that before that happened were thinking a certain way. But once that happened, their behavior is totally different. As I keep saying, racism was forced upon us for centuries. It's only in the past few decades that we're beginning to unlearn that learned behavior. And so sometimes, have you ever heard the term subconscious bias? Sometimes
Yeah.
people do things that they don't really mean to do. It's a reflex action. I'll give you an example. If somebody, let's say, if you're in a bank, and in the days when people used to go into banks, they don't do that so much these days. So that shows how old I am. There you go. Learned behavior. But however, let's see if we can go back to that time, because I'm sure you can remember that time, Coach, where people were in banks. If you suddenly saw a woman walking in with no top on, just her bra, you will look. It's a bit odd, isn't it? It's odd. And subconsciously, you will judge that woman. You might think, this is somebody either on drugs or somebody that's a bit weird, or there will always be that initial caution towards them. But the reality is that might be somebody who may have been attacked, who may have had the shirt ripped off their back, or it could be a multitude of reasons. And you won't know unless you actually get into conversation with that person. Now, a lot of people that say things or react in certain ways is because they're not familiar with other cultures. Certainly for us in Britain, I think we are leaps and bounds ahead of so many other countries, including the United States. We're one of the most inclusive societies I know, everywhere I've traveled. But we're still learning. And so I think we need to accept that in as much as we're not there yet, and in as much as we must not give up trying to get there, but we also have to acknowledge our progress and also acknowledge the fact that we live in a situation where we are surrounded by people that, if you look at their past, is riddled with this sort of thing. And not just in emails, I can assure you, some people have been actively involved in this sort of thing. But we still live with them today, and we still accept that they have changed.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. And let's see, I'll come to you. I want you to answer this question that I asked Bobby, because the fact that one of the brothers made that comment that is perceived as a racist comment, isn't that reflective of how, they speak in their family, or reflective of how they see black people in their family, and even their father's email? Isn't that reflective of how they view Muslims?
Yeah.
And before you go ahead, I want to quickly ask people, please, if you're watching, we have just today, I think we have just how many? 37 likes. I mean, you can add to that. It takes a second for you to click on the like button. And if you haven't, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell notification button so you don't miss the Blue Morning Show. It is a daily show, and believe me, it's been growing, and we have great panelists here, such as Bobby, such as Stav, who is not here with us today, such as LSC, also such as Pierre, such as Declad, and also such as what's his name again? I think Seed, and a whole lot of others. Please do smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. That will go a long way. We aiming to get to 2,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So let me quickly go through the chat. Then I need you to please take some time and answer that question that I just asked you. And this is okay. We're still on that question. And this Glenn saying good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Glenn. We've gone beyond morning, but in Las Vegas here it's still morning. So I'd say blue morning to you. And this is Cronus Dan saying we have gone through so much. I remember the Save the Bridge campaign. I know I don't remember that, but I know Bobby will. I know LSG will. I know Staff will, and I know Nick Blue will. But what I've learned from Bobby, Nick Blue, LSG, and Staff is that we've gone through worse. Actually, now this what we're going through now. Actually, there are measures in place to ensure that it doesn't get worse. At least we still, but taught me that we've gone through worse in the past, and we came through it even stronger. And in this case, I think we'll overcome. And I do believe it will lead to the club being structured in a manner that if anything, that sanctions and restrictions will not affect us in the future. But that's by the way. Let me breeze through the comments. And this is my brother and friend, Phantom of Many Topics, who also has a YouTube channel. He covers travels. The last time he traveled to London with lots of fine videos he recorded from the museum. I think you should go see it and subscribe to his channel if you haven't. He's saying he's disappointed that only 250 people showed up to protest. The truth is, for obvious reasons like that Bobby has talked about here, Chelsea fans are, I don't know if he used the word exhausted. People are suffering, and it's not easy to, garner the morale to be, you know, in that moment and contribute as they should if if we're not going through the stuff we're going through right now. It says add xenophobia, that's the truth, and a whole lot of other stuff. The only way I can see Ricketts get any support if they give a true blues consortium of JT etc from yeah, I guess that's a suggestion, but I don't see those guys if they're really if they're following the situation. I don't think they would want to join their group. Elsie, can you start with this comment here before? Go ahead. Just go ahead with this comment on the screen. Do you think the true blue group would want to merge with the Ricketts group?
It doesn't really matter who they merge with right now. It's not going to change their public perception of who they are or who they are perceived to be. So the inclusion of JT might even make it a bit shaky because of his own past. People will start bringing up the Ferdinands. So these are the things we're talking about. We don't need anything that is going to remind us of our past. We don't need it. The negative campaign of blood money, oil money, Russian money, Chesky, whatever, of the last 2 decades, we should learn from that and say, no more. Moving forward, we need a new chapter, peace, harmony, and success for the club, instead of getting involved and entangled with people that will drag us through the mud, for non-sporting reasons. So this is the reason why they shouldn't be in the conversation. As for the family, whether the orientation of their father has any impact on the children, there could be an argument for that to be the case. But we cannot judge everyone with the same brush. We should, each member of the family should be judged individually. But in terms of influence, you have to consider their age, consider where they grew up in America, consider the kind of movies they watched growing up. So a lot of things can influence people. And again, when it comes to one-on-one racism, or racism on one-on-one level is different from a statement being written on paper. For example, I used to work in a broadcast company. We build broadcast trucks, outside broadcast trucks. So my boss there, basically, he could make that same comment, and you just laugh it off. He could say one of the most racist things and whatever, and you will not consider him to be a racist, because of his personality, because of how funny he is, how down to earth he is, how bubbly personality he is, But his assistant, can tell you, just get me a cup of water, and you consider it to be racist, because of just how he is. People and I keep telling people, listen, that's just that guy's personality. I don't even think he's racist, So this is the problem. We live in a world now where 2 white people can have an argument, And then they call themselves all sorts of derogatory names, and all of that, and they move on. But the moment is the same set of circumstance between a black man and a white man, all of a sudden racism everywhere. Oh my God, it must be racism. It must be racism. And there is a certain aspect of our society that are deeply invested in this sort of, ideology. Everything is racist. They are bringing back segregation. People are talking. We are talking about America being segregated in power. This segregation is coming back now in the name of safe spaces. We're already seeing black auditorium, white auditorium, all in the name. It's just this language. What's going on right now is what we call linguistic malpractices. They use euphemism, to describe certain things. If they come out openly to tell you what they mean, you won't support it. And with the Ricketts
Yeah.
family, all is just going to take is this, yeah? All is going to take is this, is BLM, yeah? Making a comment on their Twitter page about the Ricketts, okay? All it takes is BLM making a comment about the Ricketts and all of that, and that's it. Chelsea, everything start going down the hill. Everything start going down the hill if we allow them in, so the times we are living in right now is totally different from what was obtainable in the past.
Yeah.
That is why we must be very, very careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one
Go ahead.
really strange thing about this whole discussion of racism is that one of the weirdest things I think I have ever seen is in a discussion with someone from South Africa that I happen to get acquainted with. And the whole issue of, they have racism within racism. They can be racist with you because your skin, the shade of your skin is darker than that. Where, where does it end? What? So I just think sometimes we need to be understanding of the fact that we're still in an evolution here. If people could be so socially engineered that simply because someone's of the same race or slightly of the same race has a different shade of dark and it's a problem, it's craziness. And this is what we're trying to get out of. So we've got to allow for a certain amount of adjustment and understanding of the fact that some generations and some people are further back in the process of learning than others. However, that doesn't take away the right to point it out, because you can't stop it unless you point it out. But it gives us a greater capacity to deal with it and tolerate it.
Yeah, great point right there. Let me breeze through the chat. I have a very, very important question for you two on the panel. Just Viola says, I believe that what a person believes on a subconscious level will ultimately show up in their speech and actions. That reminds me of a biblical verse that says something, out of the mouth comes the abundance of the heart. And I think that makes perfect sense. But let's move on. And Phantom of Many Colors here says the Ricketts have shown no remorse. But Bobby, I want you to quickly talk about this, because the truth is, I read the statements. I think it was yesterday, where all they talked about was how they've shown presented their very inclusive plans to the Chelsea. I think is it to the Chelsea Trust and people they've spoken with, how they're willing, to change things. But they said nothing about what's being talked about, because I'm sure they were aware of the campaign against them. They said they made no mention of it. So, to you, don't you think that's important?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Listen, I don't want to make it sound as if I'm so pro the Ricketts. I can assure you I'm not. I'm just
No, I
trying
know
to
you're
give.
not, but I get you. You always like to strike balance between what you're saying and what we know.
Absolutely, because we
Mhm.
live in a reality, and in a reality in this world, we've got to be able to live together and solve our problems. Look, in my personal view, the Ricketts are not a preferred bidder because of the baggage and the history they come with. That's my
Mhm.
personal view. In the practical sense, in terms of all the processes of the bid, and what was that you said about when they were asked as to what their plans were to be inclusive, was it?
Yeah, that's what they've been clamoring. That is repeating that they will be as inclusive as ever. They do that. Nothing about what is being said about them, because I'm sure they're well aware of the pushback, the campaign, the No to Ricketts campaign. They said nothing about what they're being accused of. That's the last
Well,
statement about them that we read.
well, that yet again, do they need to? I mean, quite clearly, it's an embarrassment to them. They wouldn't be bothering to address it if they weren't embarrassed by it. And to me, that's a good thing.
Hmm.
If you can't fix what's wrong till you acknowledge it's wrong. Now they've come out and they've said they're going to be inclusive, yada yada yada. Okay, they're going to have to sign up to be anyway. But the thing is, we will never know unless they come to own the club. And my concern about that is they then go overboard, which is in the climate we're in, like the guy that spoke earlier, it's quite possible. We go from one extreme to the other ultra extreme,
Hmm.
where we start getting some of these daft things as coming out in so-called woke culture that
Hmm.
is senseless. And this is where we may push these people to in their desperate bid to distance themselves from past statements. Now, that's left to be seen. It's not particularly likely, but it's always a threat. So, I mean, what else can they say? They said they're going to be inclusive. They said they are, what else did they say? They're going to be as inclusive as ever. Well, that's bog standard, isn't it? I mean, you know, I can't expect them to say any more or any less.
Yeah, I understand your point. Unless you have anything to add to that.
What was it? What was it?
The fact that the last statement they put out, I think it was via one of the newspapers. How do I how do I reference them? I'm not sure. They said all they talked about was how they've presented their plans, that how inclusive it is, how they do to accommodate everybody. Nothing about what's being said about them. And why I picked out, why I'm asking that question is this input here that says the Ricketts have shown no remorse. Because I
Okay.
think you were on the panel when we read that statement. Nothing about what's been talked about them. Nothing about how the pushback from the fans. They're just busy saying, no, we're going to do this, do that, and do the other thing. And that day I asked if the statement was complete, was it missing? And then to me, it was missing. To me, it would have been nice for them to reference what's been said about them. Even if they want to deny it, it would be nice to reference it and not just be. To me, it just seems as if they're trying too hard and not even. I'm not sure. What your take?
Yeah, they can try to, undermine the issue, but it's not going to go away. Every single day, if they eventually get a club, I pray they don't, every single day they will be reminded of this. There is no way. We're not the journalists. I was telling Nizar Kizela, I
Mm-hmm.
was telling him at the protest, you know, why is he not writing against the journalists that are writing crap about Chelsea, and stuff like that. So he was basically saying there is a culture, some, some That's what I think is his thinking basically. But something needs to be done as fans, about this negative reputation management, that is
Mm-hmm.
being handed up. And people like Buck, they are allowing this to go on for too long. They're allowing it to go on for too long. So we need to start confront. I was just hoping to see someone like Jamie Carragher. I was going to confront Jamie Carragher full time, not in a violent way, but I was going to confront him because they need to be challenged because, we know they are running a campaign against us, and we shouldn't allow ourselves to have an owner that is going to give them more ammunition. They'll just keep writing and writing and writing. So we will be the one to feel the impact. We will be the one to feel the brunt. And if they eventually get the club, the perception is already there of who these people are. The players are
Mm-hmm.
aware. Okay, I won't be surprised if our Muslim players decide to start leaving. Because don't forget they have family members too. They have family members who are probably Chelsea fans. Okay, and they speak about these things. They say, we heard that the new owner is a racist or is Islamophobic, whether it's true or not, you know?
Can, can I
So,
come in? Can I come in here? Yet again, I find myself almost being doing advocacy for these people.
Mm-hmm.
Look, why I keep saying, look, we need to be a little bit more responsive than reactive. It seems really funny to me that all of a sudden we're talking about racist owners. We're talking about owners affiliated with dictators or rogue rulers and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody's ever asked this question of Man City and what happens in the UAE and what
yes,
their race relations are like. Nobody's ever asked this question of Newcastle. It's only Chelsea that gets asked these questions. What, you
absolutely.
think there aren't any racist things going on in the Middle East? Probably even more than anywhere else. You see, Americans, another thing you've got to understand is also a little bit of cultural differences. As I've said, in this country, we are miles ahead of any other, do I say, sort of white nation, if you can use such a term, out there. Certainly than the United States. The United States are still crawling out of the Middle Ages. They still talk about black communities, white communities, Italian communities, and all that sort of thing. Things that will be unheard of in this country. They still are learning to integrate properly amongst themselves. Now, we're not perfect, but we integrate fairly well here. So, of course, their language is going to be a little bit different in
Mm-hmm.
race relations. So, we need to be a little bit more mindful of that and have a level playing field. Why? Is it because the Arab owners of Newcastle and Man City are dark skinned? So their racism doesn't matter, or their affiliation with it doesn't matter? Where does all this end? I think this is why I'm saying we've made our point. Let's kind of see how this pans out before we make a further point.
Yeah, I want to say this. I think read this comment on the screen, which says there's a lot of difference between saying something and doing something. That's for sure. It's a profit. That's a good comment right there. And if you haven't, please go check out that Sports Wire, great channel. Especially if you want to learn more about Chelsea finances, I think he has some great videos that will help educate you on that. There's this stuff saying, okay, I don't want to call the second say, oh, Carragher called the sanction against fans a nonsense. LSG, do you actually check facts? Again, that's you, Star, your comment. Here says, totally agree with Bobby here. There, I repeat, there is a clear agenda against us. my protest is against the agenda. Again, that's a topic for another day. So, Bobby, the question I want to ask is this. Uh, for instance, John Terry did say something about Roman sanctions, or not the really sanctions of Roman. I think he said something. What a good owner Roman Abramovich has been for Chelsea Football Club. I
He
think some
has.
of the sorry.
I said he has. He's been an excellent owner.
Yes, yeah, and he's been really. That's the truth. But my question is, the fans has been protesting against the Ricketts. I may be, I'm poorly educated on that. I think the only person that's come out to say no to racism or no to the Ricketts in support of what the fans are fighting for is Paul Canoville. Am I right?
It would appear so. It would appear so. Yeah.
So if that's the case, where are our former players? Where are the likes of Didier Drogba? Where are the likes of DJ? Sorry, JT. Where are the likes of Lampard? The likes of all. We know all of them. Ashley Cole. Why aren't they saying anything?
Yet again, as I've said before, this is a move that, whether we want to admit it to ourselves or not, it's really the bigger emotional side of it are those of the our brothers and sisters in the Islamic faith. Now, although I can't think of any of those people that you've
And one
mentioned.
moment, stop. I never said that. I did not say that wasn't a fact. Okay, I did not argue that. Go ahead, Bobby. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any of those people that you've mentioned that would not be against those sort of statements made by Joe Ricketts.
Then why not say something?
Well, maybe they don't think the time is right to say anything because there is a tender in process and they know the influence they have. These are influential people in the club. So if they start weighing in on a tender in process, it could come back to the club. We're in very uncharted times. Nothing like this has ever happened before. As I've said, the fan base is still shocked. We're still in mourning. We're shocked. We're upset. We're angry. We feel a sense of injustice. We
And at
feel,
this point, we're exhausted.
well, emotionally, yes.
Yeah.
We are emotionally traumatized. And it's like, 1 minute we were fighting the media, then we're fighting the FA and the officials. Now it feels like the government. And all people are looking around and saying, look, we're just football fans. We're only football fans. We do this to get away from all this, not to bring it to the stadium. So it's like there's no escape anymore. Why? Simply because we love our club. So we're still processing all this. And now to expect those that were ex-players and things that are also processing it to get into the emotional movement, as it were. I think if I were one of them, I would be very hesitant before I jump in because they have to be more careful than any of us. And if they do something and they're wrong, or it could come back to them, it wouldn't be very wise.
Yeah. Thank you for taking some time to respond to that question. Let's see your thoughts. Why aren't we hearing getting subsidized? Because the truth is, that's if the protest by the fans, the campaign against the Ricketts by the fans packs a punch already, it will pack even more punch if former players begin to join the campaign and are as vocal as the ordinary fans are. Your thoughts? Why aren't we hearing so much about former players from
Okay.
some of our former players?
Okay. I think in Chelsea's case, like I said in one of the streams before, one of the good things that I can say Bruce Buck has done for the club in partnership with the late Tony Banks was to set up the S Players Trust. So I think maybe the affiliation with the ex-players trust is one way or the other affiliated to Chelsea Football Club. So that might be a reason. I'm not saying that was the reason. It could be the reason they are not coming out to speak. And another reason could be the passive nature of our ex-players when it comes to defending the club. We even heard someone like Jose Mourinho when he said there is a campaign against Chelsea that when he retired from football at the age of 75, he wants to be on TV as a pundit to defend Chelsea Football Club. He said this passionately. So it could be that passive nature. Even when you see them, Ashley Cole or Joe Cole, they try to, be made to sit, sitting on the fence. They don't want to say anything and all of that. But we have ex-players like Rio Ferdinand coming out, defending Chelsea. He basically said this is not about football anymore. This is now an agenda against Chelsea Football Club. So they don't want us to fight. It's like they've done it. Okay, there is a reason that they've given us a reason to do it, so you must comply to that reason, otherwise XYZ. So that's the mentality that's been growing up for some time now. And because of that mentality, a lot of people are being held back. We saw when John Terry posted an image of him and Roman, how MP Chris Bryant reacted, But if had it been John Terry back out, then he would have won. But he doubled down and started bringing out all the dirty launderings of this Chris Bryant, So it was a big fail for Chris. So this is what we're talking about. Nothing actually stops them. Like imagine Lampard even saying like he could count in one hand. In one hand. Are you talking about the first season? Because first
Yeah,
season
I really
alone.
don't want to talk about that
Yeah,
because
no,
I
because
will.
we're talking about ex-players now.
No,
That's
I'm
why
just
I'm,
saying it will anger me. Just go ahead.
Yeah. So, if in one season, I'm sure you could count your 10 finger because it was always in a dressing room. So not to talk about for almost, more than 10 years. No, come on now. So is that passive nature again? It's like they're happy to be on the news whenever they get the opportunity. They don't want to run it. Meanwhile, you have people like Jamie Carragher actively campaigning for our manager to be taken away from us. He saw a club in crisis and he wants to hit more on it. And then he goes about with a loud liberal nonsense. I don't want them to go to the war. Of course you want us to go to the war because you are actively doing or campaigning for issues that will make us go to the war. Why simultaneously telling us you don't want us to go to the war? This is how these people speak. Like the minister in charge of culture and all that. I'm not going to mention his name. He was basically saying, oh, we are doing the best we can for Chelsea fans. Why are they saying this? Because they are looking at politics. I don't even think, from what I saw yesterday, I don't even think Chelsea fans have that ability to cluster enough to run a campaign against the government. To say, you know what, Greg Hans, you are a Chelsea fan, you did nothing apart from speaking out the other day, against, what was that, Steve Pagluka. You did nothing. What the actions of the government has taken away businesses from your community that you represent. Then you said nothing, you did nothing, you were passive throughout the whole process. You couldn't say anything to separate Roman from a traditional cultural British institutions like Chelsea, 170 years old. The club that was already 98 years old before Roman came in. So let's be honest. These people, there's a passive nature, and that is what is going through. I don't see any reason what's going to happen to the ex-player. What are they going to lose if they come out to speak that they don't want this? I don't think they have anything to lose, or could it be? So that's what I'm saying. It could be the ex-players' trust that's what's holding them back if they are signed up.
Possibly,
Not,
but this is a serious.
yeah.
This is a very serious situation that I'd expect them to say something. Or your final thoughts on everything we've talked about today, and I'll go to Bobby to round up for us. LSG, your final thoughts on everything we've talked about today.
Yeah, I didn't join the stream early, so I'll just say from when I joined the stream.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the protest, I'll say we hold back for now, but start planning for the next one. We need better
Mm-hmm.
preparation, better, resources, better communication, for people that will be on the ground, and looking for ways to do it in a way that because if it pass through, if they get through to the next stage, it means they are getting it.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea is, we'll have to stop the bus. We'll have to stop the team bus this time, because yesterday I made sure that didn't happen. Nick, we'll make sure that we're going to do it, but you know, yeah, the crowd wasn't even enough, to put a lot of weight behind it, So yeah, there was no need for it. But if they pass through, we'll have to stop the team bus. We'll have to stop the team bus and get the members of the board to come out and tell us what they have a plan for us. Because so far, we only hear from Tuko. And from the way Tuko speaks,
Yeah.
it's
Go
like
ahead.
it has the same information that we are privy to. I don't think he even have more information.
Mm-hmm. Again, my advice is not to do anything that will affect the performance of the players. And also, from wherever you're watching, I appreciate that you providing value to the stream. If you haven't, please like the video, and if you haven't, subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, click on the bell notification button so you will be notified whenever we go live or whenever we release a new video. So, Bobby, coming to you, your final thoughts on everything we've talked about today.
Yeah, as I keep saying, I understand the sentiments. I am equally cautious about having somebody with that sort of baggage and history
Mm-hmm.
coming into the club. However, I also acknowledge that there is huge potential for there to be a bigger picture here. And in the process of demonstration, I think we need to be careful. I mean, if we had done something like stop the team bus and them not being able to get into the stadium to play the game, we could be attracting and creating excuse for further penalties against the club, things like points deductions and so on. So is it
Mm-hmm.
worth that? I don't think it's worth that at all. And that would also affect the psychology of the players. The players were affected enough by the fact that the cheering for them was not as vocal as it should have been yesterday. So that would also add to an already traumatized team emotionally. As I've said, we're in uncharted territory. I don't blame or accuse the ex-players for not coming out on this topic. They need to know more about it. They need to even be allowed to, because as you said, they may be constrained by certain affiliations with the club itself, especially as the tendering is in process. What
Mm-hmm.
I do not like from the ex-players is the apathy to attacks on Chelsea when they are in media opportunities, like especially Sky Sports, BT Sports, Talk Sports. Jason Candy is very strong, but he's Cundy is very strong, but he's one of the few. Chelsea ex-Chelsea players need to be stronger. I know they're probably under contract when they go on these media platforms, and the
Mm-hmm.
contracts itself are quite skewed towards Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal. They tend to be allowed to say what they like, but they should look carefully at any contracts they sign before taking it up with Sky and people like that, and make sure that it gives them the opportunity to speak out and defend the club, because Jose was 100% right. Even Bella Silva, Thiago Silva's wife, is beginning to
Yeah.
notice the bias against Chelsea. She spoke out about some of the things that was being said of her husband, who had traveled from Brazil the day before, probably shouldn't have even played yesterday, and was getting criticized by the commentator. So everybody knows it's happening. It's just we need to be unified and push back against the nonsense that's being thrown at the club.
Yeah, yeah. I think you made a great comment there. We need to be unified and and push back as a unit and not be divided, because the fact is already I think they've sowed a division in our camp and it's working for them. And you know how easy it is for them to run with the slightest of mishap in the Chelsea camp or in the Chelsea fan base. They're having some fun now, but I'm confident that we will emerge even stronger. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of the Blue Money Show. And I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat, from Das to Just Viola, Queen of the House, Glenn, Shiloh. And if I miss your name, my apologies. And Stav himself, who is not feeling well, but yet he's in the chat contributing. Always good to see you. And Diana, everyone else, if I missed your name, my apologies. And to those on the panel, staff, thank you. LSE, thank you very much for finding time to join. I know you must be exhausted after the whole thing yesterday. And Bobby, thank you very much. Always good to have you on the panel. I appreciate your input so much. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow for another Blue Money Show. And more importantly, I will not forget to thank you guys also for 1,000 subscribers plus. And we hope to reach 2,000 subscribers as soon as possible. And we've also been monetized. And I couldn't have done it alone, but we were able to do it together as a family. Here at Chelsea Perspective, we are a family. And I want to say one more time, thank you to all of you. And God bless you all. And Shiloh, it's good to see that you went to church. And I hope you did pray for our beloved club. I think we have new comments here. Maybe I should look at them before we round off. Yes, thank you. And up the Chelsea, yes. And that's it. Shiloh, I hope you prayed for our beloved club to overcome. See you guys tomorrow. Cheers.